The Lightworkers Handbook, Lesson 1, Discovering Your Spirituality. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Services. I am aware of where we are. This is a temple built to honor the majesty of the human being. This is a place that is sacred, honoring what is intuitively known about the magnificence inside each of you. It is a place that is dedicated to the love of God, to the love of humanity, and the compassionate teachings of peace on earth. It is dedicated to peace inside. So let it not be lost on any who are listening or reading this that this is a sacred place, and this is where we begin this message, a perfect place for it. When you have this situation, you have energy that emanates even from the chairs you sit in. There is the energy from the walls, from the floor, from the very stones that are here, and all that they represent in their power and synchronicity, singing the same song. The elements know who you are. Oh, dear ones, is that too esoteric for some of you? Because some of you are overwhelmed, perhaps, with the energy of the entourage that floods into this place, not even being aware of the other entourage that has always been here. The elements that have gone into the building of this place know who you are, and some of them are old, culled from the forest that are older than you are, yet they know who you are. You see, you are a piece of God, the angelic realm, the creative force of the planet, and they see you differently than you see yourselves. They don't see what you see in the mirror, for they feel an angelic presence has entered the room. They wonder what the angel conclave is today that would bring such an energy in here. They hear and see your magnificence. They're singing a grand song, and you can't even hear it, but I can. I always can. You don't even know who you are, really. And it's designed that way, human being. The design is one that calls upon your free choice to come up with answers. The task, as you sit in a chair, is if you can awaken spiritually to the point where you can chip away at the wall that separates you from God. It is called the Duality, and it represents the free will of a human being, ready to tear down an invisible and elusive wall, one that is unseen to many, but that is part of spiritual awareness. It is a wall, when broached, that will then reveal the secrets of life and why you are here. And that, dear one, is what we want to speak of tonight. So let's make some things perfectly clear even before we begin. First, I am Kryon. I know where I am, and I know what has transpired in this place, and I am in awe of it. There is a purity within the guidance for those who have built this and the things that are taking place here. There are lives that have been saved here. I tell you what that means in a minute. I speak to a group of old souls. There is no first-timer here. Every single one of you has been here before. All of you have an Akashic record that is lengthy. There are Lemurians in the room. There are those who have come out of the mystery schools into the room. I have shamans in the room. There are profound healing techniques in the room, and there are those who have healed themselves in the room, and those who want to be in the room. Let it be known, dear human being, that you have placed yourselves in this temple with free choice. You have the ability to walk out of this place differently than you came in, every single one of you, no matter where you are on the path. Synchronistically, you have created a situation for yourself, and so here I am. So I say to you, may the solutions be brought forward to what you came for, and the knowledge be yours of the questions that are on the top of your tongue, for they are personal, and they are unique to you and your path, and they are ready to be dealt with. Indeed, it's a good time for healing. There is no better time, and you have come to the right place. There are many on earth who are awakening. Be aware of this. As ancient as you all are, some in this room have only just discovered the premise of awakening to a grander God. Many have felt it indeed. They knew somehow that they were spiritual beings, but they come here brand new, never having heard anything about what we speak. We have the big picture, and we know who you are. Each time you arrive on earth, you get to examine if the esoteric things are for you or not. Many of you seem to have been born into these kinds of examinations of the esoteric. Early on, you rejected what was given to you as the spirituality of your family, or the way things work, and you pursued your own course, some of you at the expense of your family's love. You see, I know who's here and who's reading. Don't you think we walk the walk with you? Don't you think the angels were there during the disruption and frustrations? Don't you think you saw the tears? Don't you think we were there when you cried out for help? We were there. I know who's here. Humanity awakens in different times and in different ways. The old souls on this planet are starting to awaken en masse due to the shift that we have been explaining for almost 2 decades. But so many of them do not know where to turn or what to do. They get excited and ask, where's the beginning of the information? Where's the knowledge? How can I get up to speed? Where's the primer I can turn to? I have given my partner Lee much information now for 18 years, given much like he is doing today. He sits before human beings and he speaks my communications, translated into this language so it's comfortable for him and readable by you. These are the words of Kryon, and through that period of time there has been so much covered. Much of it is graduate information, and much of it is core information, all intermingled depending on the group that is sitting before me. But for one who is awakening in this massive shift, there is no primer, no starting point, no premise to build a basis on. Truly, you could start at Kryon Book 1, which I asked my partner to name the End Times. But that was a cryptic time for him, and he was learning how to channel. He was not within the meld with me as he is now. It was also communication for 1989 and not today. So the message was not as clear as today, not like it is now. It was not as personal, not like it is now. So today we embark upon a task that I've told my partner we would do. There is to be a multi-chaptered primer that may never be a physical book, but which has a name like one. It shall represent instruction sets for those who wish to start at the beginning. The channeling this evening, therefore, will be a core information, Lesson 1, that takes the reader to the beginning of this new energy and all that goes with it. This is where it begins. This is where the human will come to discover the premise. This is also what some of you need as a refresher, for there is some information that you don't know that will be presented tonight. So we say it begins, and this channel, which has been transcribed, is one we wish to call the first chapter of the primer. We call it Realizing Your Own Spirituality. Truth, the basis for belief and action. Before we even begin the teaching, we have to discuss a premise we have discussed one time before. What is truth? In your own reality, within the perception walls you build around your mind called 3D, there are absolutes in truth, in math and in science. When you begin to break those three-dimensional walls down and get into the system of interdimensional things, and especially spiritual things, all the rules of reality change. So what I'm about to tell you, you may not sit well with all of you, for you will weigh them in a 3D way instead of a multiple D way, because of the way your mind works. Truth is relative to your path and is multiple. Many will immediately say, Kryon, we don't like that. There has to be one truth, for truth sets the stage for the direction of the human search for God. Therefore, there can only be one truth and only one God. Does one God mean one truth? Or could you indeed see many roads to the one God? When you get to the other side of the veil in death, don't be shocked to find others there who are not part of your church or your truth. Instead, there are many truths, and with pure intent. They are all passionate roads that lead to God and the family of God. For those who demand there only be one truth, I'll give you one. Indeed, there is a generic truth, a core truth, and it is this: that at the center of every atom in the universe of yours, you will find the love of God in a personal way. That's the core energy. That's the truth. But you might say, well, how sweet. And I will say, oh no, I'm not talking about sweet. I'm talking about physics. There is an energy at the core of every atom that makes things work. And when you remove the energy of God, it all collapses. You might say it's the space between the electron haze and the nucleus of the atom that keeps things moving and separated. It represents more than you'll ever measure, more than you'll ever know. It's basic physics, and it's the love of God. That's the core truth, and scientists are on the verge of realizing it. They will call it something else, but there will be the realization of an intelligent force keeping things running. Here's a definition of truth. It is when a human being marries his heart to the passion of God and creates discovery. It is an acknowledgement of a personal search, if you wish, without knowing anything more. It is a willingness, with free choice, to find out about God inside. That's truth, so therefore you have multiple truths as you go around the room from multiple human beings. But again, a human doesn't necessarily like that. You say, well, there must be one truth, one doctrine, one building. And we say, well, how 3D of you. The linearity of your existence has been placed on God, and you have decided to make a 3D God. This then matches your human experience. Don't you see how limiting this is? It is the cartoon character coming to life, stepping off the 2D page and meeting a human. But he screams in confusion and frustration, seeing 3D for the first time. He can't cope with it and doesn't understand it, for it doesn't make any sense. Therefore, he returns to his domain on his page and draws humans in 2D, so he can make sense of it all. You are then rendered as a 2D drawing due to the limitations of the observer. Inside each of you, you will discover the family. This family is the intuitive group that makes up the whole of God. At the core of the family is the same system of interdimensional workings, and it comes from the love of God and the compassion of what you call spirit. Therefore, your truth is what you are doing when you follow your passion to create manifestation in your life. What most human beings do not and will not understand is that this system is the glue between your many truths. It's difficult to explain in 3D, isn't it? But between the multiple truth of your quest for what you're supposed to do is a glue of knowledge and synchronicity, all working together without the potential of the system to make things happen in 3D. There is more than it seems here. The beginning premise. So let us begin with the premise. You are not looking for a doctrine, you are not looking for a prophet. You are stepping off the page of 3D belief, of following others within a generic box of belief, and are instead risking the idea that God is far bigger than anything you've ever been told. You're looking for what you are here for, and the premise is that the search will reveal to you not only your own path, but also that you are part of a grand system. It's an interdimensional system of how things work and is intuitive and shared by others all over the world. It's innate, meaning built into the cells of humanity. It is magnificent and will also reveal God inside you to the extent that you can become your own prophet, your own master, revealing divinity within your own eternal existence. It will bring you to the realization that you have lived before, and that this is absolutely a staple of the system, not odd or weird, but rather a wise observation of how it all fits. It will fly in the face of those who are steeped in a 3D mythology given to them by those who existed in a far less enlightened time and energy on the planet. Do not be critical on yourselves if you do not then follow what you are told by another human being or organization, by what they think is appropriate spirituality, for their truth is different than yours. Their search for God is different than yours. Blessed is the human being who searches for God in any way at all. Blessed is the human who sits ready to go and who says, God, tell me what it is I need to know. I want to chip away at the wall, the duality between 3D and multiple D. I want to chip away at the wall to find my own magnificence. I know it's there. I can feel it. Show me the path to my own revelation. When a human being is following his truth, it's his passion for God he is discovering. It's a path for his own personal discovery to find God in his life. That's truth. It's diverse since there are so many individual paths for humans. Each human being is spiritually unique. One is working on abundance issues, one is working on health issues, one is working on self-worth issues, and one is battling fear. Many of these paths are a result of the past experience of humans on Earth in different expressions or past lives, creating the vast differences of personalities at birth, their strength and challenges, their many phobias and their gifts. Do you see how you cannot create a spiritual box and ask everyone to get in? The new energy and what happened. And so the journey begins. What is this new age all about? What is this great shift? We start at the beginning, and the beginning is not all that far in the past. In your time frame, it is only 1987. That's all the further I'm going to go back, because that is the beginning of this energy, the one that allowed Kryon to manifest as a teacher, and everything before it was an older, denser energy. It was an old energy whose prophecies have dropped away. Did you notice the earth energy is different today? The old energy represented an earth that is now gone, if you've noticed. So this information is for the one who is studying this for the first time and needs to hear it from the beginning. In 1987, an event occurred that was unique in your history. It was called the harmonic convergence, and also later called the 1111. What was unique was esoteric. The earth had reached a vibratory rate of spiritual neutrality, where the future could go either way. It could be pulled to a higher level, an interdimensional level, or wallow in the old prophecies of doom and Armageddon. Out of your linear time, and hard for you to understand, all of the higher selves involved in the system of Earth were polled. All the human beings that have ever been on the planet, are on the planet, and potentially will be on the planet, were asked this question: do you want to go through with the old energy prophecy, the potentials of the old, or do you wish to move into the new energy that the ancients told you was coming? It is an energy that is not in your current prophecy, something that will create peace on earth, something that will create work for the Lemurians who are here and the old souls who are here. It will create spiritual lighthouses who will awaken in large number. What is your choice? And the answer was, we want to go forward. And as dramatic proof of this esoteric event, almost overnight, within a few years of this event, the geopolitical structure of the planet changed and morphed into something nobody expected. Against all odds and all prophecy, countries who were powerful players of the old end-time scenario changed greatly, the Soviet Union in particular. You were suddenly looking at a reality that no one had prophesied. No Cold War, the very thing that had created 50 years of turmoil, fear, and had no foreseeable end, had suddenly terminated itself. The time for the scheduled Armageddon came and went. Then you received a challenging event in 2001 called 9/11. It was not in prophecy, not in Nostradamus, not in scriptures or revelation. As I told the United Nations group 2 years ago, the 9/11 event will affect 2 generations of what your leadership does here. Don't you think something so important would have been in your old prophecies? This is proof that you're in a new future, and so we say again. The harmonic convergence of 1987, along with the harmonic concordance in the following years, are bookends to the changing, shifting energy that you've created all by yourself. Now here you sit with a totally new energy. So if you're reading this for the first time and you want to know what it means to you, read carefully and listen to the logic as it goes forward. Here you sit in a changing earth when it was never prophesied. You might say, what do I do to make the difference, and how can I shift? And I will tell you, especially if you are new, the very act of asking the question is shifting the earth. Blessed is the human being who asks, what can I do? What is next? For by this act of compassion for the planet, they are showing within their own selves that they have started chipping the wall. Is that you? If so, then you are asking for the steps of ascension, are you not? Yet I'm not going to give them to you because there are no steps. Or perhaps there may be one, begin. And so we see that the human being who begins the journey of asking, how do I chip away at the wall, already has the pickaxe in his hand, already is working the puzzle, and already some light is showing through. The changing system of karma. I would like to again explain what is happening regarding karma. This is an old spiritual process that will always be with you and the planet Earth. It is described very succinctly within some of the oldest belief systems on the planet, still true to this day. It's an energy system that will be in place and will operate all by itself, just like so many other things about the energy of life. Even if the human being does nothing at all to see it or recognize it, it is still present and will affect what the human does. Important. Individual humans are not predestined to do anything on Earth. There's no predetermined path or predestination. Instead, by default, they are predisposed to follow a karmic path that they do simply because it's there. and they come into the planet with the emotional equipment to follow it automatically. Let me explain this. So many things are in the works at this moment, including your own free choice, not to have free choice. You're in a battle right now, and indeed, if you allow consciousness to shift into a backward situation, even an enlightened, vibrating earth can have free will dictate that it will no longer have free will. It would be like taking a vote not to allow any more voting. That is how powerful you are. You are angels, and you can create whatever it is on earth that you wish to create. The darkest dark and the lightest light are both on your palette of energy colors. Whatever it is you wish, you may do. It is a critical time. Things have changed. The old prophecies of what you were told would happen have dropped away and been replaced by free choice of the moment. The Mayans have given you the information that 2012 is the beginning of the upsurge of a vibratory change in the planet, a new beginning energy. It has an 1111 energy. Indeed, the 2012 is alive with 1111. The 1111 that many of you see on the clocks is all about the promise of the 2012 transition into a more positive energy, the beginning of a new paradigm. You may very well sail into 2012 with the ability to have the earth support you in a way that it never has before. Changes are afoot that you know nothing about, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Every human being who is born into this planet immediately gets a karmic imprint. He comes in and delivers his crystal into the cave of creation. The crystal is a memory energy that aligns to the crystalline grid. It is a part of Gaia, and Gaia, therefore, knows he is here. So it is with all of you. When you come into this planet, karmic energy is deposited into your DNA, and you start the energy there. Karmic energy is an energy that is part of the system that we speak of, that is Earth life force. This is the one where the human being chooses no esoteric path, but just follows a groove of existing karma, created by past energies and expressions on the planet with others. Often humans are born into a place where they were the last time. Often they follow their family's direction, or whatever their family does, they do. If their family are farmers, they are farmers. It's the most natural thing for them to do, and it's an easy decision. It's like a road that is wonderful to walk on without rocks, so this is their karmic path. This path often takes them into challenge because of what has happened in lives that happened before. Often it will redo and undo itself as karmic energy unfolds. Many of the energies of the yin and yang are then manifested. It is true indeed that what goes around comes around. And that is all part of the very old system under a very old spiritual vibration, one that is automatic. But it doesn't have to be yours. Listen, for this is where it gets good. In 1989, I began telling you that in this new energy you had the opportunity, if not the demand, to get out of karma and get on the road of your own choice. For as an old soul, one with magnificence inside, you have the ability to get out of the groove. You can take that old karma and place it aside and replace it with something far higher in energy, an energy with intended spiritual direction for you and the planet. You would say, I wish to make my own creation, my own reality, and not the old setup of karma I came with. Have you heard the phrase, creating your own reality? And this is what it means. And the harmonic convergence gave you that power. In 1989, I arrived with my partner and we started channeling that you would create a situation where you void your karma and move into your own free choice and create the life lesson that you came for. We spoke of an implant, which we never speak of anymore. We never speak of it because now we've reinterpreted to mean the implantation of permission to get out of the groove. You implant yourself with passion and truth and you move forward, out of karma and instead into a place where you have choice of the energy that you create through pure intent. Karma is interesting. Here is something you haven't thought of, human being. The profundity of karma. I'm looking at souls in this room. In this room where there are 8 of you who are alive today because you got out of karma. Had you stayed in the karmic groove that you were born in and done the things that everyone wanted you to do and followed the karmic road, you wouldn't be here today. This is because your potential karmic appointed you with death, would have taken you. you would have been in the karmic place and time to experience your potential death. But because you popped out of the groove and manifested your own life experience, all the karmic attributes of your death fall away. Now here you sit, in charge of when you come and when you go, 8 of you. And here is where human puzzles us on my side of the veil, because I just given you the truth that is powerful and joyful, and you should celebrate it. You ought to build a statue right now to the death you move past, but you don't. You don't know what didn't happen, do you? Well, I do. Who is it who is in control over death? What have you been told about this? Who is the Grim Reaper? Well, no matter what you've been told, I'll tell you who the Grim Reaper is. It is the human who decides never to look for God. It's a human who just shows up and plays no part in his destiny, just walking the path of karma, including wandering right into his death. There's no judgment of any humans who do this, only a report of what it is. But 8 of you would not be here sitting in the chairs had it not been for your leaving the road of karma. Congratulations, family, for you know what this is all about. So for the beginner, we say that you can move aside the karma you were born with and start creating your own reality. This is a new gift with this energy. It allows you to move into the consciousness of a new kind of human being who chooses their own destiny. Some call it ascension status, a move into an energy of creation itself. So the next question, of course, is, Kryon, what do I do next? The answer is the hardest thing of all. Have patience with the system. Humans don't do that well. Patience for the system to catch up to your choice is needed. If you are new and you're just beginning to understand and hear this message, the first thing you're going to want to do is to go and climb the steps. You're going to want to do something with your knowledge and your passion and your excitement. You wish to do something in 3D. The old paradigm has you doing something physical in order to manifest something spiritual. It's been in your history and it's part of your mythology. But that's not the way it works in this new energy. We know who you are and what you're attempting to do. Every truth is unique, and your truth may be to start a ball rolling that is going to get you finally from point A to point B. You're starting to see your life lesson, and you're starting to awaken and realize the old soul that you are. Many who have just begun to feel this in themselves feel like they have purchased a ticket for the train, and they therefore expect the train to show up soon. Well, I'll tell you, the tracks aren't even built yet. Don't despair, dear one, for you've started the process. So while you have patience, you start studying and learning what it is inside of you that is different than what you thought. And the best place to start is to look at the masters of the planet. For the masters of the planet are the ones you are to emulate, because that is a new tool of this age, mastery. Mastery is the voiding of karma and the passing of an old energy lifetime and moving into another while staying in your own body. The tools for it lay upon the grid. The tools for it lay within the crystallin. The memory of the planet is actually shifting to accommodate a master who has your name. There are many who are awakening, many who are doing things right now that only the masters of the old could do, and they've done it for themselves, and it's commonplace. And by the way, it's what they teach here in this temple where you sit, and think about it. And so we say to you, emulate those masters who walked this planet before you did. What did they have that you don't have? The first thing is absolutely nothing at all. All of them were human beings. They were not super creatures, and they were not born different than you. The one who said he was the Son of God was very clear about all this. He said, I am the Son of God, and so are you. His message was about manifestation, to help you to understand that the magnificence that he had inside him was also yours. It didn't sit well with his culture and his age, and the conquerors of his land killed him. I want to tell you that what he showed you is what you can do with mastery. You can change matter. You can rewind a clock in your DNA. You can create healing that is beyond what you thought you could ever do. And it comes right from the higher self inside of you. The energy of the masters is with you, and the only reason they came here was as examples, so you could see it and do as well. The return of the masters of Earth. There are those who teach that the masters are going to return to the planet, and someday many religions on Earth claim this. Some look to the skies and they say, it's coming, a time when the masters are coming back to save us. They pin all their hopes and their desires on this, and they sing songs and they hold services, and they expect them to come back. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The humans who do that do not understand, do not see the reality of what has occurred. For the masters of all returned, and they sit upon this very place. Wherever you are, they are here. They are part of the structure of a new magnetic grid, and they are here in spirit, not in body. They are here to enter you, if you wish, in a way that will create healing and manifestation and solutions in your body. Darkness will run from the light when you decide to open the door and let it in. That's the way God uses men and women on this planet. So if you're new and you're looking at this, I am telling you that the Masters showed you what is now possible. The harmonic convergent is what allowed this to be, and your choice as a human being is to look into this or not. The new grid and its unseen backup system. There are backup systems you may not even be aware of. This information is for those who are just awakening, who would like something beyond the veil. The crystalline grid of this earth is the memory of the planet. It is part of what you would call Gaia. The crystalline grid of this planet is now the active grid, and is the slate that you write energy on as you move forward. It is absorbing everything that you do as you walk from one place to another. The crystalline grid knows where you walked and that you've made impressions in the dirt. For the grid knows humanity. Any human being who is spiritually awakened on this planet is known by Gaia. Light emanates from your intent and voids your three-dimensional aspect of reality. There is a backup system to the crystalline grid of this planet, a memory system. The crystalline grid will never be destroyed. Yet there are systems that could be applied to the earth by humans and mankind, which would disturb it in a way that would void the integrity of the whole. It might break the chain. Too much electromagnetism placed upon the earth in an obscure way could damage the integrity for a time. So there's a backup system, and it's alive, and some of you need to know what it is. It will always be with you, and that is the whales of this planet. You love dolphins, don't you? Ask a biologist about them. They're really smart whales. So when we speak of whales, we mean all of them. What other mammals on this planet is protected by over 80% of the countries on Earth by treaty? None. For intuitively, the human race knows that these are creatures who are majestic and must remain on the planet intact. It's a backup system, and it's very special. Now you know the secret of why you feel about them the way you do. Summary. Is it possible that there's more than you were told going on? What does your intuition tell you about your own purpose on this time? The harmonic convergence did a whole lot more than just shift the energy of the planet. It gave you permission for an enlightened state, and now here you are. There's always the 3D question. What should I do now? Blessed is the human who feels it at the heart's level so strongly that they will say, I will do this journey, I will find the truth. For understand that the very process of discovery creates light on this planet. You're not going to join anything or belong to a human organization. Instead, you are personally going to begin to ask about yourself. We use the metaphor of light and the darkness often. It's the best one we have. Truly, at an energy level, your curiosity is opening doors and making the planet vibrate higher. Less than 0.5% of humanity must awaken for this planet to change permanently. That's because it doesn't take much light to quench the darkness. You've got almost 7 billion human beings, most of whom will never awaken and not interested in this. The vast majority are in survival mode and only concerned about the next meal or their very lives. But you have the privilege of concerning yourself with the esoterics, the spiritualness of life. You actually hold the light potential of the planet. It's important that you understand that the system you're unaware of knows of your awakening. The system that you're unaware of knows that your eyes are on the pages or your ears are hearing this, or that you sit in this room right now listening. The system knows of the lighthouse that you will become, if not already. Later we will define the system and tell you how it works. The universe knows of this meeting. That's how profound it is. Hard to believe indeed in your 3D reality that such a thing could be. Now let us address those who want a little more. If you're one who is new, I will tell you that there are riches here. As you chip away at this information, you find out more about you and your DNA, your abilities, your mastery. You could change your situation and solve the problems in your life. You can conquer fear. You can develop self-worth and pull upon the Akashic records of your own existence, pulling to yourself the things you need. You can go to the well of your own spirituality and become the shaman you may have been not too long ago. You can become a magnificent healer if you choose, or one who meditates and shines his light on the planet every day. Whatever you choose to do, whatever your passion is, it's why you came today and why you are listening to this. And the next step is one of trust. Make no assumptions, Move forward with patience, and then we'll discuss the next chapter. The next one to be given is living with your own duality, the difficult one. That will be given next in the series. Shamans in this room disguised as ordinary human beings. Isn't it time you open that jar of your shamanship? Yes, you're supposed to be a healer. You knew that all along. It's not too late. It's why you came. I am Kryon. I'm not going to say goodbye. The energy of the entourage remains here, where it will be dispensed tomorrow in ways that you will not be expecting. For in your time frame, tomorrow brings some things that you need to hear that I will give to my partner through the day, even out of channeling. Things that you need to hear about you and yourself, about duality, about what's next. You're never alone. No matter what you think, we're always here, and that is the truth. You don't know who came to see the moon today, do you? I'll see you again, family, like I have many times. I am the energy you see when you come into the earth. I am the energy you see when you leave. Some call me the gatekeeper only because I am Kryon, lover of humanity. I'm not really the gatekeeper, for that is a mythology, but I am the one who stands at the gate of your life when you come and when you go. And so it is. The Lightworkers Handbook, Lesson 2. Understanding Your Duality. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. There are those who would say that this kind of communication is impossible to have, difficult. What is the process, they say, that would allow a human being to speak as if a human was the link? And I'll tell you, that process is easy to explain. For the human is the angel on earth. There's a direct pipeline to spirit, and you have called it the higher self. This spiritual part of the human is there like an antenna, waving in the breeze all your life. Some of you know what to do with it and plug it into that sacred pipeline. Most don't. But when you do, it is when your most profound meditations occur. The invitation in this energy is to learn to develop that pipeline and tune into that energy. There are many who are just beginning to tune into the higher self energy. These are the ones who are discovering for the first time in their lives that there is more than they thought about God. I have told you for 18 years that the earth is beginning to vibrate higher. What you see on your news today is the shaking that is going on, and there's more to come. That is to say, there are many who are being dislodged from their mythology, asking the question, what is real, what is not? They are saying, why do I feel in my heart and my soul that God is bigger than I was told? Then some will be brought to look into the words I've given over these last 18 years, and they will be overwhelmed with the teaching. Where do I start, they say, or what should I do next? Where is a beginning primer, so I don't have to wade through all the graduate material to find the basics? The answer is what you are hearing and reading, and I have commissioned my partner to do a series on channeling called The Lightworkers Handbook, a place to start. I have commissioned him with instructions to make it available within the largest venue he can, so that the most can see it with free choice to examine it or not. There are those who are beginning this journey who are just arriving, sitting here asking the question, what is this feeling? Could it be real that a human being is doing what it looks like he is doing, channeling? And if he's not, why do I feel like he is? And these are good questions, and the answer is that Earth is indeed vibrating higher, starting to let the consciousness open. Every single one you have Lemurian traits, if not directly, then indirectly. That is to say, you are the lineage of the Lemurian race, those who had a quantum view of the universe, who awakened first with the information about who they were. Here you are, sitting in this modern day, when there is another awakening group on, and you're on the front lines, since the first ones to awaken are the old souls. We have told you that before. So, old soul, you might have all the experience, but you still have the earthly, three-dimensional rules pressed upon you, and a cultural mythology of who you are and who God is. The following things may go against what you were taught, and if that is so, stop and weigh the energy of truth. Do not assume that everything you are reading or hearing is absolutely so, for we wish you to use your own discernment engine. Use the intellect that is combined with the heart and ask the Spirit, could it be? Is this right? For some of these things will challenge your very core belief system, everything that you have been taught. That's what we do today, bring up all the dark stuff. I proclaim that this is Lesson 2 of the Lightworkers' Handbook. The first lesson created an understanding that there is more than you think happening on the earth. The beginning, the harmonic convergence, the increased tools, new intuitions, and the opening of energy that you are all a part of. All that was covered in Lesson 1. So we have chosen this astute place for Lesson 2. Let the listener and the reader know that the place where this information is being given is the origin of Kryon. Sitting here are family members who are in their human bodies, were patient and kind with the engineer, my partner, in those early days of channeling. They gave him the allowance of no experience and let him be while he found that he needed to find. And so it comes full circle, and he is back here in the energy where it began, not too far where it all physically started. The reason we have chosen this venue is because the subject is tough and something that you should know about. The news is not bad news, it is simply profound news. Get ready, for you have not heard this before. It will challenge and shake the very core of your belief system. Some will be angered, some will not. Some will feel compelled to strike back. Most will not, for these are the energies that are the core of your duality, the study of dark and light within you. Defining duality. The first thing you must know past the fact that there is divinity within you is that on this planet there is something called duality. That duality represents itself as a balance to the divinity, the darkest energy you can ever conceive of, which is you with your name on it. It comes in with you at your birth and does not leave until your last breath. Some have called it the shadow self, some have called it the dark self, some have called it evil, and some have called it the dark side. This attribute of you has a name, and it is called duality. Duality is entirely appropriate, for it is a designed part of you. It is assigned to you at birth, and you do not carry it in from the other side of the veil. For this planet is the cauldron of duality, where the test is being accomplished. The test is that angels pretending to be humans come to even the playing field, and with the duality, dark and light, try to find the balance between the two. It is a test of energy, not the human, but it feels as though it is a test of your soul. And you might have noticed each human being must decide for themselves if it is real or not. You must decide individually, without evangelism from any organization, without those telling you what to believe and not to believe. The days are starting to diminish when you simply hang your soul belief onto the wagon of history and the mythology it represents. For this new energy is beginning to draw out individual examination of spiritual things, a desire to really know the truth. When you come into the earth, you get something you didn't plan on, and I want to tell you all about it. I want to tell you how powerful it is, and I'm going to give you an example of it. Then I want to tell you what you can do about it. Before we go any further, let us discuss what this energy of duality has done for your history, for it is the basis and the core of all religious mythology. It is the basis and the core even for the Greek gods. The duality of humanity has driven all the stories there are about magic, about good and bad, about dark and light, the powers that are here. The human being, even in your own modern culture, is taught that in heaven, a long time ago, there was a struggle. This, by the way, did not occur. There is no struggle on the other side of the veil. Struggle and conflict are concepts based in duality. Think about it. God does not share in your 3D experience, yet you continue to base so much spiritual history as though this was so. Angels don't fight. There is no struggle for power, and the paradigm of your consciousness does not transfer over to the working of the Spirit. But in this mythology, an angel actually fell from heaven, and his name was Lucifer. That's tough, because there's no such thing as heaven. Again, you have created places in an interdimensional state, and that's impossible. There's only home, the place you are when you're not here. And it's not a place. It's a state of interdimensional energy, and it's timeless. But as the mythology goes, the fallen angel was responsible for developing a place of his own, an evil place called hell, which you will go if you don't believe. Now, stop the story. Does that really sound like God to you? Or does that sound like man to you? I ask this only because at some point you must discern the truth and separate what you have been told from what your intuition is now telling you. Read on and consider your family would create this. Hell is where you go automatically when you die, according to the mythology. There you suffer forever, period. Unless, of course, you do something while you're here on earth, something that is to join and to be, to proclaim, to get in one of the boxes of your cultural belief. Again, does that sound like God, or does that sound like man's creation? Dear ones, again we say there is no Lucifer. I will tell you something, and it's very interesting about humanity. Everything good that happens to you, you say, God is good. God did this for me. I'm so glad I'm close to God because God did it. And when something bad happens, human beings often say, well, this is awful. This is the evil side. The devil got a hold of me. I don't know what happened. This attitude, of course, means that humans are not responsible for anything good or bad. They just float along hoping they don't get pulled into the wrong energy as they mind their own business. But if they're lucky, the struggle between God and Satan won't touch them. The human will win eventually and go to heaven when they die, if they behave and give their powers away to the mythology of history, which can be found in more than 700 versions of spiritual belief on this planet, in structures of many shape and rules of many variations. Does that sound like God? It is not. It's man's mythology, often dished up with much integrity by spiritual leaders who are certain that theirs is the correct path. This is not told you to cast judgment on any. It's simple historical truth. We've told you from the beginning that we honor every and all searches for God. But the new energy seeker needs to start discerning the truth for themselves. So we are aiding in that, giving you a different perspective, for it will change the future and begin a higher vibration on the earth. Note here that this is not a message to pull you into yet another spiritual box, for there is no organization around this Kryon work, or the New Age in general. There is no place to join anything, no structure to visit, no historical human prophet to worship, and no central book of rules. This is a new paradigm of spirituality, where millions will begin to examine the truth that resides inside themselves, all the rules, all the doctrine, all the love that brought them to this place. They will check it against what they feel and what they see around them. Many will wonder how such a large, worldwide group of humans can be so collective in their thoughts, without structure or leadership or membership in anything. It is a new way of things, where what you will discover internally is what is true and real, instead of what you were told from those who are echoing the mythology of history, most of which doesn't even agree with itself. What drives validation of this mythology about the push and pull energies on Earth is very real. It is this disbelief you have that something so dark might actually reside in you, or the disbelief that something so grand like God could reside in you. You are taught that you are nothing, born dirty, and therefore you give away the power of the good and you give away the power of the bad. There you sit, powerless, clueless that both of these profound powers are seated right in your soul. Do you see? In that state of worthlessness, you are then ripe for almost anyone to capture your interest in their own system of God. 85% of the planet's population has indeed created for itself the boxes where they can explain all this in a 3D fashion. Isn't it interesting that the first thing a human does when they come of age is to look for these answers? It is God in your DNA that drives the search of the Creator. Here is the truth. There is a piece of God that comes in with you, and we discussed that last time. It resides in you, and it's waiting to be awakened. And it is a quantum energy, interdimensional but in 3D. And it is beautiful. It is light. There's a reason why you're being prodded and pulled to sit in the chair. So you know that you're part of everything. There is no accident that you are here or listening to this. It is with your full permission, you know. and you may not know what it is yet that you are supposed to do about it, but know this. Simply your very existence to ask changes the planet. Did you know that? Just being here, listening, helps the planet. That's a message for another day. This peace of God in you as a balance, for also residing within you is the darkest of the dark, and it's got your name on it. Therefore, this duality, we said that, but you need to hear it again. The 3D approach to battle. The 3D approach to battle is that if you have an enemy, you defeat it. In 3D, you go to battle and you kill it, then it's gone. And you arise victorious and you say, that which was part of the evil in me has been slain and now it is gone. That's reasonable to you. So there are a lot of places where you can go to slay the monster within. And you don't have to look far for help with this. But this isn't the case with duality, for you are with it all your life. To destroy it means the death of the human, but many say it doesn't make sense to have an enemy that is so strong within me, and just let it be. It must be dealt with. But you do deal with this energy within you without the concept of elimination. Instead, we call it balance, and this, dear one, is an advanced concept for almost every human alive. For it must void out the instinct of survival in the core sense of the word. It transcends the flee or fight feeling and replaces them with a wisdom that is what we have been trying to give you for 18 years. Therefore, this lesson, too, is the acknowledgement of that which is in you, which you don't want to even admit is there. It's a stretch to believe that you have God inside, but it's not that hard to find it. But to believe that core evil is also within you is an insult to your intellectual self and the integrity that most of you carry for an honest life. In other words, this whole concept is one that you must examine out of the box. Revelations of the truth of duality. The duality reveals itself in so many different ways. I shouldn't even have to list them, but for those who are just coming into, I will, from those things that are minor to those things that are not. Drama is one. Drama. Have you met those human beings who survive only by spinning in drama? The irony is that they are the ones who will be on the phone to you, the Lightworker, for your balance and carry a light that attracts those who are not. They'll say, there's more drama than I can stand in my life. There is this and there is that. I thought I'd handle this, but this came back. Then
but when you hang up that
give
phone,
you know
what
what'll
will happen,
happen,
don't you?
and it will be good.
They will
as
not
it
take your
always has
advice
been.
at all. They just wanted a voice on the other end telling them what they already knew. Then the next day you get the call and they will say, well, this has happened and this has happened and this has happened. It just seems to keep going. Finally, you might even tell them the truth. You might say, are you aware that you are drawing this all to you, that you survive on it? And they will say, never. I would never ask for such a thing, but they do. And I'll tell you why. Because they are comfortable with it. For there was no drama in their life. They would have to look at the shaman that they are. Blessed is the human being who has dropped the drama and seen the spiritual side. For quite often the drama hides something just as profound, a light that will pour into their life. But they are so afraid of it. Therefore drama covers up having to deal with reality, and drama becomes comfortable. Worry is next. Worry about everything. Those who worry are those who feel that they are powerless to create anything. There are those of you waking up at 3 a.m. worrying about the fact that you don't have anything to worry about. When you start to balance that dark thing inside you call duality, one of the things that goes away is worry, because you have a sense that the system is starting to work, and indeed, you're not alone. There's a plan, and worry starts to drop away. But it's that dark thing that wants to wake you up and say, well, look at this, let's worry about it. Then it gives you this, what you call a laundry list of things to worry about. That's when you cannot even go back to sleep. Then you get up. You know what that feels like, don't you? That is absolutely human. Drama and worry lead to lack of self-worth and fear. You look at yourself in the mirror and all you see is an aging human being. And that's all you think life is about. Where's my youth, you say? Why can't I go backwards, you say? What is life all about? I am such a small part of this system. And that dark thing inside you will say, right on, boy. Have you got it right? You are nothing. You never will be. You're here by accident. When you die, that's it. You're gone. And for whatever reason, the human hangs his head and says, yeah. In your perspective, it may not be fair, what I'm about to say, but fair is 3D for you, and does not represent the grandness of what humans have set up for themselves on this planet. For the dark side of you is easy to bring out. The God side of you is not. The irony is that it is so easy to bring out that you have denied it and created an entity who is responsible, the devil. So it seems the devil is everywhere and God is nowhere. The reality is that this is the balance of duality. You have to look for God, but the dark side is always pushing the buttons. It was created this way and is fair in its balance. You will see why in the last section. For the discovery of the God self tilts the balance forever. There are reasons for all of this that are very profound but difficult to explain in 3D. There's got to be a balance, a yin and a yang to everything within nature. It's always about balance. The test of energy on Earth is done by pieces of God disguised as humans. They come, they go, changing parts in this play of energy. They are not being tested, but rather are performing the test themselves. Where will the balance go when you give them both dark and light? And what will happen to Earth? The answers are hidden from you, but are part of the universal self, and the fabric of what everything is about right now regarding this Earth, the only planet of free choice for now. Those who give away themselves to these darker energies of their own duality will then fall even further to the next layer of darkness. Rage, hate, violence, death, murder without remorse. Indeed, you'll say, now, Mr. Kryon, you're talking about evil. Really? And what is evil? I'll tell you, it's the dark side of what is in the human being ready to be developed and matured. If you want to go there to be an evil person, you've got all the power you want at your disposal. You can go right to it, for it is free choice. God won't stand in your way. Did you know that? Oh, there are so many humans that will say, well, that's when the devil's involved. He'll help me. He'll pull me down there. And there are cults who worship this very thing. The truth, nobody's pulling you anywhere, dear human beings. That is your free choice. Many humans go there because that's where they find their power. That's where they have power over other humans to create worry, drama, and control. The dictators of this planet, past and present, that's where they find their power. They get people to pay attention to them. If they murder enough human beings, it creates notches of fear on their power belt. That is what they do, and I don't have to tell you that. You know it. And I'll tell you, although that is evil, that is the human being exercising the power of evil. You may not want to hear this, but I have to tell you, it's needed for your full understanding of what comes next. The human being is powerful in both directions. It has the angel or the devil energies at its core. Dear Kryon, you just told me there's no such thing as a devil. I don't believe it. I have been places and I have seen the magic. I have seen demons cast out of humans' bodies. I have seen physical forms actually crawl around on the floor and leave. Human being, do you believe in miracles? And so, who told you they were always with light? Do you remember me telling you about balance? Black magic is simply miracles created from the dark power of a human. A human being can do that. There are those who said, well, I've seen voodoo. It's so real. It's so real. People give themselves over. They're killed and they got sick only because of suggestion. That's evil. And again I would say, welcome to the power of the human being. Look into your history. Look at the dictators who spoke the words that convinced so many people they were right, just so they could murder millions. I will tell you, this is the capability of the human, and it is powerful. The other side of the coin. Now, why would I tell you these things? Do not fear any of this, for I have only told you about what is the core of you, and you are in control of it all. There's another side to this, dear one. If you're reading this and hearing this for the first time, and this is lesson 2 for you, I want to tell you that this is going to get better. That dark part of you right now is saying, I don't believe it. Don't read any further. Don't listen anymore. Why? Because now I'm going to give you the rest of the story. The dark part knows that if you look further, it's all over, because you'll see something it does not want you to see. Free choice to see the balancing power, and oh, what a power. If you could see the bucket brigade of angels in your space right now, taking the energy of interest that you have developed, you'd be amazed. For they are getting ready to fight your fight with you. You come to this planet with a piece of God in you. The dark thing in you is set to temper the beginning energy that creates karma. It is for a reason, and you have it when you are born. How many of you taught your children to be angry when another child wanted to play with a toy? How many of you parents taught your children to be jealous or to go into a rage? And you'll say, I never taught my child any of these things. And I will say, I know. They came in equipped with it, and so did you. Are you beginning to understand? Now we get to the good news. You can balance this or not. Most of humanity just sits and allows it. That is to say that the perception is that it's with you in a balance, that it's just as strong as the other side. You see it in your culture every day. You're taught that you have to go report to the building and confess all the awful things that you are and have in your mind. That's a reprieve from God's anger for a little while. Then back comes a dark thing, and you've got to go back to that building and confess it again. What a concept of surrender. It's a constant yin and yang, is it not? Between being washed and being dirty. What mythology? Do you think God actually created that system? Here is what God created. Inside of you is a divine system for balancing this duality in a way where it won't be able to get a foothold. Use pure intent and say, Dear God, I am tired of this. Show me what it is I need to know to help put this in perspective. This is the beginning, for it represents you in an intent mode, pushing on the door of the other side of the veil, asking to discover the divinity inside. It will come the beginning of balance. And we told you that in the first lesson. It will come a complete and total system. It will put that dark side of you into a place that you won't be able to find. The duality of dark and light was created for the system on this planet. But these two energies are very, very different. The darkness within you has no idea what you're doing spiritually. Think about that. Those of you who make decisions spiritually and follow the map of intuition and discernment, who pull upon the peace of God in yourself, create an energy that is invisible to the other side of your duality. That thing that is dark has no idea what you're doing or what you're done. It's just angry that it cannot reach you anymore. Once you step into the light and begin this journey, that thing that gave you such a problem all your life is relegated to being non-essential. It's like a child in the back seat who pounds upon the seat, irritates you, and wants to know, are we there yet? That's all I could do, pound on the back seat, but it's always there, and sometimes it's louder than at other times. Some are bothered, even those who are lightworkers. They say, why is it there is such a cyclical attribute to this? I thought that my spiritual work would keep it totally quiet. Not so, since it is always ready to pounce. There are cycles of weakness. Again, it is a balance. Now, did I have to tell you this? Dear Lightworker, do not beat yourself up emotionally because you go through these cycles. Sometimes it is more difficult, and sometimes it is less so. There are highs and lows, and it is totally normal. This is normal because, dear human being, you're always working the puzzle between this light and dark energy. It is an ongoing battle that will never end until your last breath. But those of you who have stepped into the light have the advantage. Although this may sound super simple, I'll remind you of my light teachings of many years. A stadium filled with darkness, with 10,000 people, will be affected by one who turns on one light. For when you turn on one light, no matter how dark it is, darkness, as defined, cannot exist. This is the power. So you see the fairness in this. Although the challenging side of humanity shows itself intuitively, and the God side does not, when you find the light, it pushes the duality into a status of limbo, where the darkness is trapped. Therefore the power is on the side of the light. Light is active. Darkness is not. Darkness cannot show up and change a lighted room, but light will totally change a dark room. Perhaps it's time to try this. With pure intent, say, Dear God, tell me what it is I need to know. That starts the progress. Don't tell God what to do in your life. Instead, say, I am ready to know. That is a statement of wisdom, and that's when you begin to find out who you are. Don't be surprised if love flows into your heart. Don't be surprised if you find angels taking your hand and you can't explain the feeling. Don't be surprised if you have unexplained peace and fear. That's the big one. Take a look at where fear starts. It starts at the gut. This is a lower energy attribute of humanity. It has nothing to do with your enlightenment or your third eye. It starts in that place where you can control it, but if you don't, it will quickly move into your mind. The next time you have a fearful response, do you have the courage, the wisdom, the wherewithal to say, "Stop! I know what you're doing. Do not move." Do not allow that darkness and that fear to go any further than the bottom of your heart. Let your wisdom and your love and your knowledge of who God is inside you take over. Then you will find the fear will go away. It will dissipate. Sometimes it will try to get you in the middle of the night, but even then you can control it totally. Think of the love of God next to you in a protective, lighted state. Say, "Get away, get in the back seat. I know who you are. You are the dark part of me, but you are not driving anymore." Does all this sound simple, perhaps foolish? Could it be the answer to so much of life's challenge would be this easy? Ask around. It's not easy, but it's a profound step of faith that begins to separate you internally from a part of you that you thought was from somewhere else. Many feel separation anxiety. We even told you about this in the Kryon Book 1. We called it the implant. It's an implantation of permission to change the duality, and that's the Lightworker. I told you what I told my partner Lee when he first started doing this. I said, "Dear partner, you now have the ability with your light to stand within the highest mythology of the planet. Stand in the pentagram. Do it while they dress up in funny costumes and chant odd words in order to hurt you. Let them try their magic on you. All you have to do is smile at their attempts. For your light is far grander than anything that a human being can conjure up with their own darkness, far greater than any darkness even a group of human beings can create. For you've tapped into the source. Ask him, he did it. For there was a time when a group hurled their magic at him during the first trip to the United Nations, and the result was nothing. Darkness hurled at light creates no effect. That's the truth. The object of this lesson, dear one, is so that you hear the truth that you are more powerful than any dark thing on this planet, more powerful than any demon that you're told might be in you. And if you want proof, just press on the door to God, "Let us in," and you will know that what I have told you today is true. That is why they call it a veil, for it completely hides what is actually there. Be aware, today we have not asked you to join anything, have we? Be aware, today we have not asked you to follow any protocol that introduces you to many books or lessons to buy. Instead, we invite you to read the instructions within the DNA that you came here with. Let mastery show itself, shamans that you are. That's the message of today. That's the only one that we're going to give like this one. It's something for you to think about as you look at the push and pull of energies on this planet. And blessed are those who have felt the energy of this day and of this lesson. For they are dearly loved by an entity who just wants to be with them. Me. It makes you wonder who came to see whom, doesn't it? And so it is. The Lightworkers' Handbook, Lesson 3. Greetings, I am Kryon of Magnetic Services. Could it be that, as I said this morning, that the room has been filled with an energy beyond expectation, coming from places you wouldn't understand? In this place exists an energy who knows you so well that it touches your heart. No matter who you are, or what your culture is, or where you come from, it touches your heart. Why? If I told you that all have something in common, it would be beyond belief for you, for indeed, you all come from the same place. There is a commonality, a truth that says you all are the same in a certain way. Home is the same for all of you. So perhaps that is what you feel as you come into this place. As you associate with human beings you'll never see again, do you feel the connection? What does that mean to you? Do you understand the bridges and bonds that you build here profoundly out of time? Did you know that this is a place where love is generated? Did you know this is a place where it's safe to think differently? Not all of you have come to see the spook show, you know. Some of you are just enduring this time of esoterics. I know who you are, so let me address you. You are so loved for your patience, so loved for your patience. Do you know that there is not one guide, one angel, or one entity on this side of the veil who's going to bother you? If you walk out of this place and say, "I don't care anything about this, I don't believe in this," that guy wasn't really channeling, you know. He was pretending. If you leave in total belief, it changes nothing about the way this sister, brother, Kryon feels about you. Free choice it is for the human, and it is respected. For if and when you're ready, it is then you may choose to open the door of belief into the esoteric, and not before. God does not place energies upon those who wish to be untouched by the experience. Let me tell you how these messages are going to be structured and what the messages will be this night and the next. For this night, we are going to load up on the esoteric. Then tomorrow night, we're going to load up on the physics and the astronomy. These will be very different kinds of channeling. They are being given separately, but in my reality, they are being given simultaneously together. For you, they are a pair of messages that are opposites but related. So if you listen or read or hear one, be sure to experience the other like bookends. They balance one another. One is the most esoteric and one the more scientific. So tomorrow I will do what I have not done in a very long time. I will give pure physics, pure science. I will explain some things to the limit of the allowance I'm able to reveal, giving hints about the way things work and why they work the way they do. I will explain some of the unexplainable things that astronomers see and some of the things that physics has totally and completely missed. I'll even rewrite some of the laws of physics that you depend on for a logical system. But tonight is for the woo-woo group. I knew you'd like that. My partner told me to use that word. The woo-woo stuff. I know the things that you are criticized the highest for. I know who's here. I know what some of you endure for the beliefs you have that are outside of the culture's accepted thinking. Some of you have come here totally and completely alone, knowing that when you go back, you can't really share what happens here. Yet you'll want to. You want to take somebody aside and say, well, I went someplace and I know I was touched. Somehow I was touched. I don't even know what touched me. I just know that I feel so good. I feel empowered to do things I could never do before. And I'm all by myself, and I wish I could share it with you. But you can't do that, can you? If that is you, I would like to give you a message. It is not necessary that you share anything with another human, really. Just go away joyful, healed, blessed, and carry with you a consciousness and a light that, by your actions, show your shift to your family, to your workers, to your culture. Let that be your message, for that is the way of it, and it always has been. I must preface all the esoterics by again walking you through the challenges that we have from this side of the veil as Kryon, arriving into a three-dimensional existence, trying our best to give you interdimensional information. Here is the example for you. Try someday to explain color to a human being who never had sight. They don't even have the experience of seeing, yet here you are trying to explain red and blue. That's a difficulty in any of these messages for us. Since the very beginning of time, this particular universe has been set up so all you see is the singular, and you are linear in your perception. This linearity of your perception totally establishes what you believe is real and what you believe is not. And if you can't see it, then it doesn't exist. If you cannot see it, you cannot even talk about it, even though you have invisible forces around you that you take for granted, like magnetics and gravity. You can't go past that. Both of those are provable at the see it level, for you can see the effect of them clearly every day. But if you can't see what others see, the colors of the energy around things, then it's foolish. Therefore, there are those who say, I choose to be linear. Some here are not just like that. It's comfortable, and you are used to it. But it's a biased linearity, and you don't even know it. Your survival depends on you being in a linear world, so very early on. Your brain was trained not to let you see anything that would not suit your linear existence. Therefore, you have a biased reality. Even though your actual physical eyes may see colors, your brain denies you the visible. It does not suit your linear reality. Every single human in this place is so linear and so used to it that none of you realize how reality crippled you are. As three-dimensional, linear human beings, you show up for a 7-hour conference where each speaker has to deliver the message to you one word at a time, and your brain must listen one word at a time. It's like your entire reality is on this small, little, thin track as you move only forward, never back or up or down or left or right, only forward.
It's as a thin string that you balance on, and everything around you works that way. But you're used to it, so it doesn't seem limiting. When you get a book, you read it in a linear fashion, one word at a time. Even those of you who are speed readers are reading one page at a time. It's still linear, one after the other. You are reality crippled and don't even know it. If you had quantum reality as we do, you would see conceptually everything at once. You could see the entire possibility potential scenario and the messages all at once, out of linearity. You could come into a room like this and receive the whole day's messages in a few seconds, as though you had listened all day in a linear fashion. You could take books and read them by touching them and holding them for a moment. This is one who can move up, down, left, right, forward, and back in reality. You can't imagine. You saw an example of this today. In general, a true interdimensional human existence is very rare. You're in 3D for a reason. Since this is the energy you developed, you have control of your own reality and the perceptions you have of the whole. So you sit in what you have created. Your life is lived in 3D, and you walk away from this place one step at a time in 3D. Therefore, when we speak of the esoteric things, there is little justification or proof, for it does not justify itself in 3D. But for those of you who wish to cross the bridge of reality with me tonight, I wish to talk about the most esoteric things in your belief system, and we will touch on many of them. There would seem to be no science behind these things, but that's only because your idea of science is based totally on the 3D. As you begin to reach out of the 3D box, someday your science will indeed justify the esoteric. For then the theories and the postulations and rules will be interdimensionally based. Such is the way of it. Today's foolishness is, therefore, tomorrow's science, and it has been this way as long as you have been human. Wouldn't it be fun to place you in a time machine where you could explain to your ancestors how you can talk to anyone on Earth with a little device in your hand, or throw pictures through the air up into space and have them received again almost anywhere on Earth? Good luck with this. But you wouldn't get far before they would want to stone you, burn you, or at least ignore you for being one of them, the weird ones who consort with the devil. Seen any of these in your culture? And then there are those who say, I don't believe in anything unless I can see it. And so let us address this issue first, for it is so very common with so many of you. I must see it, they say. In addition, Mr. New Age, don't talk about odd things in the ethers. Don't talk about intuitive movement, which you call kinesiology. Don't talk about numerology. Don't talk about astrology. And don't talk about past lives to me. Don't talk about Lemurians in the mountain to me. I can't see them because they don't exist. It's all fairy talk. Invisible things exist all around you, and you take them for granted. But they're part of your reality in 3D. Somehow you've justified these, haven't you? Air is too small to see, but the microscope shows it. Aha. Therefore, it's not really invisible, you say. Love is an emotion that's felt, not seen. That's okay, since you can experience it. Gravity and magnetism are so big you can see the results of them constantly, so they're okay too, in the 3D mind. So the 3D mind would seem to allow anything that a device can measure, or that the body can feel as real. But I'm speaking of something that you are going to have to reach out for, since it can only be seen and experienced with spiritual intent, changing the 3D rules a bit. Therefore, the unseen things I speak of can only be experienced by changing your reality, something you have permission to do. If you can suspend your 3D bias for just a moment, you can cross that bridge with me into a quantum state, just for a moment. This is the beginning of the softening of the false reality box you are in, moving to the allowance of things unseen to be part of your possibility. How would you feel if someday a device was able to see interdimensional energy? Would that be fairy talk, or would it then be okay? You will actually have that decision to make sooner than you think. Truth, the big misunderstanding. One of the most difficult things to speak about to a biased 3D mind, and one which really exposes the linearity of your thinking, is one of the most basic things you deal with. What is truth? Oh good, Kryon's going to tell us what truth is. Yes, I am. You are right, and you're not going to like it, for it's not in 3D. Truth is the attribute of when the human heart marries the love of God and the results are the passion for the spiritual path that enhances that human. Some of you have had this experience and you know your truth, don't you? And you will often say, "This is my truth." But how do you feel when it isn't someone else's truth? They may have theirs as well, not like yours. But it may be just as passionate for their marriage to their love of God. What they see in their potentials and what they do, the actions which they have, the integrity which they hold for spirit, the direction they go in, may be very, very different from yours. How do you feel about that? Are they wrong? Kryon, are you about to tell us that there are many truths? Yes, but more than that. Indeed, there are many truths. But the human brain, biased in singularity, yells, "There's got to be only one truth." This is something that is at the core of all spirituality, one truth. There cannot be many. We are all looking for the one truth. It's responsible for all the religions on the planet and most of the wars. It is the commensurate search for God. And I say, how 3D of you. What if there were multiple realities of truth that all led to the same place? Would you be okay with that? For that is the way that it works. If you really need the one singularity of truth, I will give it to you. You are all connected. How do you like that? But think about it. Do all the parts of each earthly machine know the whole picture? Do they know why they exist? Well, not in a linear world they don't. What if you were all parts of a giant truth machine, all working together for the purpose you didn't really understand? I'm telling you, these truth connections are like the spokes of a hub of a wheel. There are trillions of them, and they all lead to the center, and they are all called truth. Well, some will say, "I don't like that." You don't like it since it doesn't fit your linear box. Let's talk about food. The sustenance of life is food. The sustenance of your spiritual growth is your truth. It is your passion. What are you going to do based upon the truth that you have that is the marriage of you and your higher self? What are you going to do in life? Whatever you then do is your truth, and it's known only unto you. It's personal. But it's the linearity of human existence that then wishes to generalize it, paste it upon groups of humans, and call it a doctrine. Put it in one box and you feel better about it, don't you? It's far easier when you have an authority outside yourself to tell you what your truth is. Then it's not your responsibility. If I told you there was only one kind of food, what would you say? Well, you wouldn't like that either, would you? What if the giant food angels came down and said, "Stop this. You're all going to have to stop eating what you're eating and change because there's only one food"? You'd say, "Well, that doesn't work. That's ridiculous. That's silly." And I'm saying to you, it's the same kind of attribute when it comes to spiritual truth. Spiritual sustenance is individual and unique. The search for truth is not the search for one thing that all will then participate in. That is a very 3D, biased, singular thought. So here's what you got to look at. I have told you that there's truth for every human being in the room, one that is isolated and separate and unique. Yet there is quantum effect here. When you get together, somehow those truths meld together one purpose, don't they? There is a commonality within your intuition of the face of God. There's a commonality of where the truth of the day is manifest in front of you. And those who experience it are okay with that, for they see the bigger picture. So the interesting thing is that although you come here as an individual seeking unique truth, together you are seeking one goal. Because in the higher connection between the truth, there is a synchronicity, and that is a love of God. The higher self you have, that esoteric thing you cannot see, seems to be the glue that makes the quantum effect work, seems to straighten it all out. There is your singularity. Intelligence cells. Let us talk about intuitive motion. Modern medicine does not like this, that there are lightworkers using their own bodies to test the chemicals in the foods that they should put in them. You call it kinesiology, muscle testing. Somehow, someway, your body is supposed to know, beyond what your brain or your intellect knows, of what's good for you and what's bad for you. Therefore, you see many lightworkers walking around doing these kinds of testing on their body, and it looks odd to those who don't share the belief. Too weird, they say. That's the silliest thing I've ever seen. What are those people doing? Let's put it into perspective.
Will you cross this esoteric bridge with me? What's your biology designed to do? My partner, I want you to go slow on this one. What if you had a disease in your body? Let's pretend it was something like a cancer and it's present in you right now. Oh, intellectual one, whose brain is at the top of the evolutionary ladder. Why is it you don't know it? Why doesn't your brain alert you? Aren't you tuned into the cellular structure of every cell? Shouldn't your brain be getting the message that something is growing inside you that's not only inappropriate, but that might even cause you death? Every system in your body is wired up to talk to your brain, so why don't you know it? I will tell you, you evolved this way, for your body is about survival, and it's always in survival mode first. If there were a neural protocol to inform you every time your body's antibodies went into action, you would be in constant anxiety. Very bad for survival. No, you're kept from it. It's a total and complete block. You could be carrying it around with you and discovered it accidentally. Too late. Doesn't seem right, does it? However, you're designed to have a consciousness where the brain believes that the body's defenses are good enough to take care of anything, so it doesn't bother you with the details. But your cellular structure knows all about it, wouldn't you think? Every cell knows what's going on. So you have then a subconscious system that is working these things. Perhaps for months there has been a battle every day within the cells, yet you walk around having no idea. So a system exists that takes the innate knowledge of what is going on in your cellular structure and communicates it to you. It's out of the intellectual loop. Very difficult to believe for logical thinkers, and it's called kinesiology. Try it. Your body will give you information if you ask it in ways that go around the intellect. It is real. It is practiced by many. So there is a reality record. It is also the same process used for what you have called the pendulum. Your fingers grasp the pendulum on the end of the chain of the string, and which direction it goes helps you to decide what to do for yourself. Yet many who see this run screaming the other way. You must be part of some evil cult, they say. Somehow they have assigned what you are doing to mythology. You are using the energy of the devil, they say. You are using the pendulum. Gasp. What is going on with the process of the pendulum is simply mini kinesiology. It is literally that muscles of the finger beyond your ability to control them, responding to a question that is about cellular structure. As you try to hold your fingers very still, the muscles move to give you a message, swinging the pendulum one way or the other. It's innate intelligence trying to go around your intellect through your muscles, and it works. What would you think of a medical doctor whipping out his pendulum for answers every time you wanted to know dosages? Well, some do. One is actually here. Use this process if you wish to find out what's going on in your body, what's best for you. What kind of food are you allergic to? All of these things your body knows, but the intellect is in survival, in a 3D box, and won't tell you anything. Astrology. Let's move to another one. Astrology. Unfortunately, I cannot talk to you about astrology tonight because it's not esoteric. It is extremely scientific. It's the oldest science on the planet, so I'll postpone the astrology until later. I will give you the physics of it, how it works, and why it works. Perhaps I'll take the magic right out of it, and some of you might not like that. For many love the mysticism of it all. The definition of mysticism is the unexplained science of God. Numerology, an energy system. I wish to broach a subject that is so difficult and which defines esoteric. The 3D part of you must suspend itself completely for this explanation to even come close to being succinct. If I'm going to tell you how numerology works, I'm going to have to tell you about the other side of the veil. I'm going to have to tell you about an interdimensional state of quantumness that represents the way things work for you, but that you are unaware of. In this string of reality that you're on, which is linear, a time frame that is so limiting you cannot stop the clock. It keeps going no matter what. You cannot reverse it. It only goes in one direction, and you're always moving. You can't stop. You can't go forward at another speed or backward at all. What a limitation. Imagine now going to a place where there is no time at all, where reality can move in all directions at once. There is a tremendous amount of confusion for you because everything looks random. Instead of an orderly, singular 3D reality, it looks like chaos. What you are seeing is every potential possible for you and your neighbor and everyone on the planet, all together in one place. There is no timeline put upon any of them.
Therefore, not only are the potentials there of what you might do after you leave this meeting, but the potentials of what you used to do and what you call the past. All the potentials that were there that you missed and did not do, all together in one place. Can you imagine something that is so chaotic? So you sit and you look at this and it looks so confusing and disorganized, and all you say is, get me back to that linear string where it is so simple. This is a quantum state, and to you, as you cross the bridge from 3D even marginally into that quantum state, it looks chaotic, incredibly chaotic, because there are no visible rules. There's no system, apparently, because the things you see don't follow what you would expect in 3D. They're not simple or singular or organized in a way you can figure out. So you say, get me out of here. This is similar to the situation where you have sightless humans from birth who are suddenly able to have limited sight through your new scientific discoveries. But when they receive it, they say, cover my eyes. It's just too different than the simplicity of what I'm used to. So it is with a 3D individual when they go across the veil and it looks like chaos. It isn't, but it isn't what they are used to. Even your best scientists had difficulty in the early days of quantum physics. They saw the apparent disorganization and randomness and objected. They shouted phrases like, my God cannot be chaotic God. I will not be part of a system that is chaotic. It's not the way the universe works. There must be a system. There must be a plan. There have to be laws, no chaos. And they're right. For now we say to you that what appears to be 3D confusion is quantum organization. There actually is a system, and it has to do with vibration and energy. In this system, anything that vibrates at any frequency in an interdimensional way sets up potentials that are marked for their vibratory rate. This is very difficult to explain. They then become marked potentials. These represent potentials that are most likely to manifest into 3D reality because there is a unique vibration around them as opposed to ones that do not vibrate. In addition, there are strings of vibration that are beautiful that are always between all of the potentials. There are strings between what appears to be the chaos between one person and another, how they met, what they do. You call this coincidence, but a Lightworker calls it synchronicity. Whatever you call it, it represents a system with rules, but ones that don't conform to 3D. Many say there are no accidents. This statement infuriates logical thinkers who then say, that is the silliest thing I ever heard. There are no accidents? Of course there are accidents. No, there are no accidents. They are manifestations of potentials into realities based upon the vibration of the quantum attributes, and it links to what you call co-creation. It isn't necessary what you call planning, but there is organization involved. It's a beautiful system. Look, what brought you here? Are you having an epiphany? Is there something going on here, an energy here? Well, there is. I know who's here. And you think that's an accident. What brought you to a chair in front of me? What brought your eyes to this page or your ears to this hearing? That's what I'm talking about. That's not an accident. There's a system going on, and you are part of it. Every time you see a 11:11 on a clock, do you say, oh, what a coincidence? Or perhaps you know that the energy of the number 11 is within numerology. It is enlightenment and illumination. Two number ones together, each one meaning new beginning. Together, a master number happens that represents enlightenment and illumination. And why is it shown to you so often? It's a sign of the age. It is the number of the age. Numerology is a vibration. And when you look at its significance and you see what the numbers may mean in your life, pay attention. The system creates this, and numerology fits in perfectly to a system of vibration. Cross another bridge with me and pay attention to that tarot spread, which some of you have said is a work of the devil. You lay cards out and somehow they're going to tell you what to do. Isn't that fortune-telling? No, that's not what it is. Tarot has nothing to do with telling you the future. Listen, if you're only hearing this for the first time, let me tell you what this is. The tarot spread is a beautiful, intuitive way of straightening out the chaos for a moment. Just for a moment, so you may see some of the things in your life through this system that helps you understand your energy better. Again, it shows you what the intellect does not know, for it reveals the energy of vibration within the system that we're talking about. What a beautiful system this is. Esoteric, take it or leave it. Numerology has been around a long time. After all, it's not the New Age. It's quite old.
Could it be that the ancients knew something that you're just now rediscovering? Could it be they knew about the numbers and they were using them all along? There are those who say, using numerology, we must be having something brewing for September this year, for this is the year of 2007, and September is 9 also. What is it? The 9-year vibration in 2007 represents the end, completion, a wrapping up of something. Next to it is the next year, 2008, which is a 1. 2008 equals 10 equals 1. This represents starting over, a singularity and new beginnings. Every 9 years this occurs. You have a 9 and a 1. That's just math. But who has put together the 9-year cycle? Draw the numbers together and see what has happened within them, or the potential around them. Let me just give you a hint. The last time it happened, the 9-year cycle, you were within 1 year of the prediction of the Armageddon that you did not experience. Did you notice this? There's always a potential for shift to complete one thing and start another. And here you are, in the 9-year again. You might say, but on 9/7, that's got to be something that's going to happen, right? There are several dates within that month that will also be a 9 vibration. For instance, the 18th, or perhaps the 27th. So, Kryon, what's going to happen on one of these days? I will tell you what's going to happen. Yet that day, some of you may be tuned into the esoteric, and some of you may be simply walking along and not caring. But I will tell you what's going to happen. That is a day all over this earth, whichever day it is, it will be celebrated. It is a day of tremendous celebration of shift. Don't fear these things. Numerology tells you what the intellect does not tell you. So in this case, it gives you hints about your own earth, about your tract and what you're doing. Why don't you take that day and get together with a group? Why don't you take that day and celebrate the fact that you are heading toward 2012? Just like the Mayans said, it is a time of enlightenment, a vibrational pattern that they saw repeated over thousands of years where the vibration of the planet went up and down. That's what they were doing in their observations as they looked at the sun and they looked at the moon. They were computing the esoterics. The vibrational shifts of the earth is what they were plotting, and they did. In this 9th year, in the 9th month of a 9-vibration day, take time and say, thank you, Spirit, that I am here, that I'm alive and I can make a change on this planet in myself, in my health and love of my family. Thank you that I can be a lighthouse for this time. This was not the original plan when they were growing up, you know. Something changed it. Just go take a look at the prophecies of Nostradamus. They are no longer valid anymore, not really. You changed and shifted, turned a corner. That's numerology on an energy system. Past lives. Oh, the big one, many say. How could anyone be so foolish to believe in past lives? There's absolutely no evidence. How can you hang on to such a premise of past lives? You will not hear proof of past lives from this chair. There never will be any kind of absolute empirical evidence. There will be much circumstantial and experiential evidence around it, but never anything to actually prove it. You either have the confirmation intuitively, and the knowledge is there, or not. But we ask you, what is it that has guided your personality so that you will come in so different from your sister, from your brother, from the same parents? What made you so unique? What gave you the phobias that nobody expected you would have, where you had no life experience to create them? What made you want to do certain things? Why has the artist become the artist? Is this all random? Did the variety of biology give you all that a science tells you, or could there be a system? In the quantumness of the potentials that I have described, is it possible that you have lived before? Well, the answer is that you have. The answer is many times. The answer is that those who would come to a gathering like this are very aware of that. Old souls come together to learn these esoteric things. Old souls are attracted to these intuitive things. Old souls are in your room. So the belief comes to those who look for their truth, for it is part of the study of your divinity. It is foolish talk to those who don't care, those who are intellectually bound to their 3D box. I'll give you some information about past lives that maybe you have not heard before, but that you need to know. For this is the least understood part of the human being. First, know this. It does not serve your magnificence to know who you have been or what you have done. It gets in the way of your life lesson. It really does. It is a distraction, so therefore it is well concealed and well hidden. And there is a purpose for this. I will give you a number of facts, and I would tell you that these things are precious, precious information. This isn't a time for esoteric rules or doctrinal studies. There are precious things that show you how much you are loved within the system. There's a system here. Everything you have learned spiritually in any lifetime on this planet is collective. It is stored in a place that goes right into your DNA in an esoteric level, in an interdimensional state when you are born. You pick it up again, whether you use it or not, and you never have to go back and learn things again. Everything that you have learned in any lifetime sticks and stays for the next time. Did you know that? And all of you have to do is to open the jar of lifetime experience with your own free spiritual choice, and out pours the wisdom of the ages. The very teachers that you seek walk the stage this weekend have done this before. They lived it before, and they are comfortable with it. It's not a product of a few years on earth. It's a product of millennium. That's the truth, and you should be able to feel this, dear one. Let me give you another precious fact. You have a friend who has been with you on every journey, and you don't even know it. This thing you call the higher self, which you can't really even define, is a multidimensional piece of you, a piece of God. It is an interdimensional part of the system, is what it is. It's part of the apparent chaos, and it is something that has a commonality to every single past life that you've had. You see, you come in with the same higher self every single time. It's part of what you call your soul, and it's the same higher self. Think about that for a moment. What does that mean? There's more. Since your higher self and your past life experiences are both in what you call a quantum state or interdimensional, then here's the question. Is it really a past life when there is no time? How can you even use the word past? If it's not a past life, then what is it? It's a current life, isn't it? Everything you have learned is an accumulation of who you are as you walk this planet. Wise old soul, you may not feel like you're filled with wisdom, but some of you know what I'm speaking of, and you are, indeed, filled with knowledge. You have the street smarts of the universe, and you know it. It's intuitive, isn't it? You can't quite touch it, but you know it's the truth. This higher self knows every single human being you've been. And it's not in a row or stacked up in a linear list. It's all mixed into a bowl together, and it's on your lap. And what we have taught before is this. Those of you who wish, you can reach into the bowl and take the best part of any one of those lives and apply it to your current life. For that's why they're here, dear human beings. It's part of the system. They're not past at all. Blessed is the human who reaches into the Akash and picks up the wisdom, who picks up the teacher, the passion of the love of God, the priest, the nun, the shaman. It's all there. It's part of the system that you would recognize your truth, for now you know why it's so unique, for it involves the ages of your being here. Those are the facts of the past life. Well, Kryon, I believe in past lives. I believe in kinesiology. I even believe in numerology, for I've seen it work. All of the things are okay with me, but I'm having a real hard time with these Lemurians in the mountains. All right, I want you to put this together with me. I want you to suspend belief for a moment and cross this bridge with me. Most of humanity say that God is eternal. Whatever God means to you, source, spirit, intelligent creator, creator of the universe, intelligent design, most feel that is eternal. God always was and God always will be. God can be many places at the same time. Everyone knows that. God could be having a conversation with you right now and also with another person, perhaps even one in the past. Who must God be who could do that? Well, obviously, God is in a quantum state. It must be that way. Think of it. At some level, God is meeting every soul who is passing over right now, every minute of the day. God is greeting all the newborns, every minute, every place on the planet. What a God! Everywhere, all the same time, ageless and without any time. God is in the potential future, the past, and is here now. But would you even dare apply these attributes to a creature who lives or used to live on this planet? You say, no, that's silly. Don't do that. Don't do that. It's blasphemous. Some of you are starting to get where I'm going with this. Human beings who learn to put themselves into a quantum state are human beings who become timeless. You do this when you meditate. Don't you feel it? Did you know that my partner's body clock stops when he channels? We have spoken of this before. When you step across the veil, you suspend your 3D linearity. The Lemurians did this, but physically. They had those DNA layers that allowed them to understand a quantum state, so that they had a lot of practice with the wisdom of the how-tos regarding it all. The reason they did it so that they could put themselves in a time capsule of vibratory change. If this Earth ever made it past the challenge of the Armageddon, which it did, and moved into the promise of 2012, which you are doing, the time capsule would open up and spill its wisdom onto this planet. They were able to do this because they have God in their DNA, just like you do. Not too spooky now, is it? Think about this. Who were they? They're just like you. They are partners in this new age. They are in love with humanity. So much so that they saw some things coming that would curtail their race. The retreat of the Ice Age that they were in 50,000 years ago allowed the water to cover their lands. And they put themselves in this interdimensional state. You say, well, they waited a long time. No, they didn't. Ask them. To them, it's just like they had lunch yesterday in Lemuria. It's a timeless state where they are, and the seconds tick off the clock. All they did was cross the street, and here you are. So what is it about the mountain? Indeed, it's simple. It is the collection point that they chose. It's only a collection point, one from which they staged the help for those who would come for it. Every time I've sat on this stage with my partner in this magic place, I have reminded you of this, and I'll say it again. There is an invitation to take a Lemurian home with you. These are simply humans who have lived before in ancient times, who had high technology, quantum consciousness, in their cellular structure. They were in a quantum state with the elements of the planet. Is this so far-fetched? What is it you know about your own indigenous? Lemurians knew more about the planets, about biology, about DNA, about magnetics. Now they are stepping forward as helpers to those of you who wish to start this interdimensional journey. It's part of the system. Finally, we close. Kryon, I'm having a hard time with God. Where is God? We want God to come down and straighten out this planet. Oh, I want peace so much with what is in the news. Is there really a God? What evidence is there? Well, go ask your astronomer who put energy and potential together. They're scratching their heads right now. What is intelligent design? They won't say the God word, but they'll say everything else. There's a system, they'll say. Maybe it's not as random as we thought, they'll say. They are using it, but they can't define it. But you know it's intelligent, and that against all odds it created us. You know what the human does as soon as he is old enough. He searches for the Creator. Did you know that? It's almost like an indictment that something's going on in your DNA that asks you to find God. When more than 85% of the planet has a religion that believes in the fact that the soul is eternal, you have to look at why this would be. Some of them want to put God into a building. They're happy just to know that he's there so they can visit and worship. And the rest of you? You want to find it inside because you have eons of experience yelling to you, and it's there to find. You want to know if God is real. Do you have the courage alone to sit down and say, Dear God, I want to know if you are here or not. In pure intent, I ask to show me. Do you have the courage to do that? That's the night when you don't get any sleep, because that's when the angels that have been standing next to you your whole lifetime start to have a party. You are giving permission for healing to proceed, to become partly interdimensional, to visit a quantum state, to live longer and be more peaceful, and to create peace in your land. You will begin to move in ways that you cannot even believe are possible through a quantum intelligence that literally carries your thoughts and your prayers to where they should go. You become a partner with God, and it is you who carries the light that you are pleaded with God to carry to those who need it so much. You see, it's part of the system that so many have said is chaotic, but is not. Oh, it's beautiful, it's loving. You can see the strings as they vibrate, all with purpose, not chaotic. And with intent, you can control them, creating your own truth, creating your own reality, creating a life very different than the one you thought you had. That's the esoterics. That's the message of Kryon. Tomorrow we'll talk about physics. Tonight we talk about the love of God. And that is my message through this clear channel who sits in a chair before you. We're not leaving the building tonight, you know. You are.
When you come back tomorrow, we are all still right here. And so it is. The Lightworkers Handbook, Lesson 4. Greetings, dear one. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is a safe place. And even before we start the teaching, I wish to announce that this is a safe place. Should you choose to open your heart this day, no negative thing will come attached to you. You sit with family, so let the energy of this place pour into you, so that you will be given a dispensation of understanding. For what we wish to do is complex. I've instructed my partner that this is to be transcribed and that these 2 days together will encompass one teaching. This will be an advanced teaching for an advanced group given in front of Lightworkers who are ready to hear these things. It is true that it will be core information, but it is advanced core information, for we are starting to create the series about the system and how it works. The most misunderstood attribute of God is how a human being works with spirit. This is the crux of frustration, and so often Lightworkers feel stuck. They don't understand the communication system or what to do next. They truly don't even know who they are. There they sit waiting for something invisible from a place that they question. The system of God is like that, you know. The system is incompatible with you since you are in 3D. So here's what we wish to do. In this first session, which is this day, we wish to speak of the physics of the system, the confusion. We will explain what it is. In the next session tomorrow, we will explain how you work with the system and give examples. These, therefore, are 2 separate teachings that should be considered as one. The system of God. Complex it is. The system of God. Let us start at the beginning. According to those humans who keep track of these things, 85% or more of this planet belongs to some kind of belief system that searches for God. 85%. No matter where they are on the planet, they believe in God. It's in many different ways within many different organizations. It is overwhelming, isn't it? That there is indeed something more than yourself on this planet. So you might say that there is evidence that the entire planet, or most of it, is involved in the search for God in their own way. So right there, a big question is, well, why would you care? Are you in fear of God? No, humans do not search for God in fear. The human being wants to find what it's about. It's intuitive human behavior. As soon as a human is able to do so, they go on a search. Blessed is the human being who searches for God in their own way. Even if they find themselves in a building singing songs of worship with doctrines that are man-made, indeed, their art and their compassion is the search for God. Let there be no judgment of your brothers and sisters for this, for they have the love of God just like you. Then there is the rest of you, the ones who would find yourself in a place like this, an esoteric place, looking into yourself, saying, there has to be more than a doctrine. The thing that makes this difficult is that you are going on a journey outside of your dimensionality, outside of your reality, and your understanding in the comfort zone that is in your 3D. So the first questions you will ask are these. Who am I? Who am I in the scheme of the universe? What is it I'm supposed to do, and then how am I supposed to do it? Where do I start? These are valid questions, but each one of them is difficult. For the answers to them all is not the answer that you can discern with logic, but you want to. For you are 3-dimensional creatures and expect your reality to be God's reality. However, the truth is that you are about to go on an interdimensional search for a piece of yourself. Therefore, none of these questions are actually answerable to your satisfaction, and there lies the frustration of so many of you, looking for God in a 3D setting. There are several ways I can set the stage here. So within the message, we are going to feature a little creature. It's going to be an ant, and this ant has been given a task. All of the other ants want this ant to go and find the face of God, and intuitively they know that the face of God is in a place. So the ant goes and begins its journey. It finds itself on a giant painting, one that is as large as a wall. Indeed, the painting is the face of God, and it's beautiful. The colors are vibrant, the face is joyful. It's so real you could almost climb into it. But the ant has no idea of any of it. All the ant knows as it goes from footstep to footstep is that there's a lot of color at its feet. And no matter how much the ant journeys on the picture, the ant has no idea what the face of God looks like. The ant is too small to see the overview and will continue to perceive only the pieces of the puzzle.
So it goes back and reports to their ants. Well, I walked and I walked. I touched the face of God, but it's just a color. But if you walk long enough, the color changes and it's another color. Therefore, the reality of the face of God to these ants is that it is a constant changing color. There's no way for the ant to see the large picture, is there? And humanity is similar, for humanity encompasses God as part of a three-dimensional scene of humanity, and it makes assumptions. Here is an important one. God is not in your time frame. Kryon, really? We know better than that. We know that God is timeless. We know that you've been teaching for years. So I say to you, then why don't you act like you understand it? For when you ask for something, you're so disappointed when it does not happen in your time frame. Many of you tap your foot, waiting for the delivery of the package that you ordered from God. You think God's clock is your clock, don't you? But it is not. So if it is not, what are you going to do with this knowledge? How will you ever make sense of it? We'll talk of that tomorrow. You even think God looks like you. We have said this before. Humans have painted the picture of God as a human. Angels are the most sacred beings imaginable who come and go in their miraculous interdimensional form. Yet you paint them in 2D. You give them skin and wings, give them a name and say, hey, this is an angel and looks like God. No, it doesn't. It looks like you. Then there are Lightworkers who say, well, we know better than that. We know that God doesn't look like human beings do. Oh, really? Then show me the painting of what you think God looks like. There are very few because you cannot paint an interdimensional being. You think God is linear. The way you treat the whole process of the system, you say, I am sick. I go to a place where I'll be healed. I will get it, then I will leave. Oh, how linear of you. Do you not understand that you must swim in the energy with spirit? Do you not understand that instead of that linearness, you must reach out and touch the face of God? What about this? I have within myself the healing that I might need if I get sick. It will restore my sickness before I manifest it, so therefore I will never get sick. So you might say, what? That doesn't make any sense. Help us with this, Kryon. Well, indeed, I'll do my best. But you've got to throw away the idea that God is like you, living in 3D like you. Your reality is not God's reality. Where is God? Here you sit and ask, where is God? I have the answer, and it's no. There's no place for God. It's an impossible question, and you say, well, there must be an answer to where is God. We've heard that God resides in heaven. There are streets paved with gold, and that there are mansions there. Or perhaps you think esoterically that God lives in what you call the great central sun. Well, none of these things would be correct, for the first one is simply a replication of a 3D city idea of yours. The second expression, the great central sun, is a metaphor for a place. It's a metaphor for the center of every single atom that exists. God is not in a place, since the concept of a place cannot exist in a quantum state. Here's another example of the absence of where. Physics on your planet will go out and they will try to contact the dead. For the human brain says, these humans are gone. This is because in linear time, the soul's energy has ceased to exist. Humans believe that the soul energy has gone somewhere to a place. Therefore, the psychic, using their three-dimensional perception, goes to that place and they bring in the soul's energy of the departed one. They get a message and bring it back, and everyone is excited and impressed. Let me tell you what has really happened. The departed didn't go anywhere. For the soul energy is now in an interdimensional space where there is no past or future. There's no time on the other side of the veil. How can you have a past when there is no time? We have discussed before that every soul energy on this planet leaves a residual on Earth. It gets more complicated, and I'll tell you about this in a moment. But think for a moment, your lifetime right now is being imprinted onto the crystalline grid of the planet forever. Forever. It has to be that way, for the vibration of the Earth is the culmination, the sum of all the entities upon it. When your physical body leaves, your departure does not diminish the crystalline grid, for the energy that you have today is imprinted and it stays there. When the psychic goes out to contact the one who's departed, they're simply talking to the residual in the grid. They're not talking to the departed soul somewhere else. Instead, they're talking to the soul energy that remained here. But because the psychic is based in 3D, the psychic says, yes, but I went somewhere else. The concept of the future or the past does not exist on the other side of the veil. Even the expression, other side of the veil, is incorrect. Do you know where you go when you meditate? You touched the sacred lattice that is always present. You journey into the center of atomic structure. You become in a quantum state with the universe and you touch the face of God. This is advanced information, for it tries the very fabric of your logic. Then there are those who say God is in charge, not understanding at all how the system works. These are the ones who say God is in charge of everything that goes on the planet, again, not understanding the system. Let me ask you something. Does it really look like God is in charge of anything? For most humans, the system of spirituality must have a hierarchy of power, and God must be at the top. However, the real system is this. God is in charge of nothing. Instead, it's the human beings who are making the difference, who find God in themselves, and who awaken with light, who let this God light show through them. Therefore, it is the human being who is in charge of this planet. The more of you open this door and understand the system, the more light on this planet there will be. There is dimensional confusion everywhere. You will ask for prophecy, and the prophet will travel to the other side of the veil to see what the future holds for Earth. And what he sees is chaos. Things are always changing to 3D eyes who look into the interdimensional void. There is no three-dimensional perception logic there, and it looks like nonsense. Yet the prophet has to make some sense of it, doesn't he? So let us add this part of the puzzle for the ant. Suddenly the ant is on the giant picture again. Only the face of God keeps changing. Then the ant comes back and tells the other ants, it's even more confusing than I thought. I was sitting there minding my own business and the colors then started to change beneath my feet. Well, the other ants don't understand that. Now let's add another dimensionality to this face of God painting. Let us make it a three-dimensional painting, not a two-dimensional painting. Suddenly the ant is now climbing hills of color that are always changing. The ant says this face of God is very confusing. For now there are mountains of changing color, but still no face of God. The problem is the same as I have discussed before. When you go to an interdimensional state, there is nothing you will observe that looks like what you want to see, or have been trained to see in your life's experience. Therefore, there is no logic or clear perception. So you make decisions in 3 dimensions based upon what your life experience is, but none of those decisions are accurate, for they only reflect your reality, not God's. In that interdimensional state is the future of the planet, represented by every possible potential that exists. Imagine the chaos, the seeming chaos of future potentials created by the decisions of every human being on the planet. Everything you might do represented in one place. Yet it's not a place. I told you this would be advanced. What I'm doing is preparing you to understand how the system works with you, and the great beauty of it. Oh, it's beautiful, you see. It's only chaos to you. It's beautiful with lovely strands of order for us. And I haven't even begun to get to the confusing parts yet. Oh, I guess I ought to tell you. Who are you? Well, a piece of you exists in 3 dimensions, and you call it a human. That's a piece of you. But that's not all of you. Just the part you think is you. For this piece is perceived as whole and complete by you in 3D. This is the piece that wakes up in the morning and looks in the mirror and sees that they are another day older. This is the piece that's always searching for God on the painting like the ant, but never seeing the big picture, the big issue. Let me tell you a little about who you are, and more about this in the channeling to come. When you come into this planet, there is an energy deposited into the Akashic record. There is a setup that begins with the crystalline grid so that everything you do becomes part of Gaia. There is also a wonderful part of you that you have called the higher self. This is the spiritual parent of your soul. So already I've described 3 parts, yet you're only aware of one, the one in the mirror. No, it even gets more complicated than that. Every time you come into this planet featuring another physical expression, you have the same higher self soul parent. Let me explain. Your higher self knows all about you, who you've been, your planetary 3D history. Because this part of you was there, all of them. Oh, it gets even more complicated. In this interdimensional system of potentials, there are pieces and parts of you also on the other side of the veil helping you. There has to be. Think about it. This explains the system of co-creation. How can you co-create on this planet when there's only one piece of you? Don't you understand if you're part of the engine of the way things work, you have to be many parts of the engine of reality. You cannot be one part asking the other parts to help you. You see, that's an old doctrine and wouldn't co-create anything. You are multiple energies working together to create synchronicity. Now let's apply that to the ant again. The ant goes onto the picture. The colors are changing. The topography continues to change, and the ant is frustrated. He's given up now, for he's seen too much for it to make sense. He's met himself. He now says, not only is this face of God unusual, changing and moving, but everywhere I've gone, I met myself. Somehow I'm on the face of God. Indeed, that's the system. Now, there really is some order in this, but I'm not done giving you the confusing parts. Not only are there pieces and parts of you in this interdimensional soup of chaos, but then there is the issues of who you used to be on Earth. What you call the Akashic records is the record of your past lives. It's in 3D, just like you are. I have Lemurians here, and they understand what I'm speaking of. How many times have you been on the Earth, Lemurian? Shaman, and you find yourself sitting in the chair as a healer today. So interested are you in the energy of the healing of the lattice. And how many times on Earth do you think it took you to get to that place? 50 times? 100 times? More? And if I could introduce you to who you used to be, how would you feel? And which one of the yours that you think was past do you wish to be? Well, I have more confusing news. Something we have been teaching now for some years. There is no thing such as a past life. Instead, they are now lives. For I just told you that all those expressions go into the crystalline grid, did I not? That means that when you arrive on this planet, whoever you are, in an interdimensional state, all of those lives are active on the grid. And the way the system works is that they all flow right into your DNA when you get here. Inside you is a very creature that you can claim to have been. It's what makes you so different from one another. Blessed is the human being who allows his heart to open and the Akash to spill out, and for him to see the work these lives have done together with the current one. He sees the old souls and the lineage of their past. He sees soulmates because their imprint is here forever. The system is beautiful, but to you it looks confusing. Tomorrow we're going to tell you how to make sense of this. Therefore, these two channelings should be listened to as a pair. You are magnificent on this planet. I've just given you information that every single time you come here, you leave something behind. I told you that there's multiple parts of you on the other side of the veil you call interdimensionality. Some of you keenly feel it and you say, well, these other parts of me are my guides while I'm here. And you are right. Some of you are very tuned into this. You say, the angels are with me. Right again, but I have news for you. You are with you. That's why contact with spirit feels so good, you understand? It's a reunion of sorts if you let it be. Yet there would be those who say, I don't like that. I don't like the idea of me with me. I want something bigger. I want someone very important and grand with me. Oh, it is someone important. Piece of God that you are, eternal being that you are. Advanced creature of God that you are, this energy demands that you understand many of these confusing things about your multiple, magnificent being. Gone are those innocent days where you come into a building like this and hope God does something for you. Oh no, it is far better than that. Now you come into a building and you find your own mastery, realizing who the family is, who the manifester really is. And you start the training of self-realization. The system exists for you, and it is beautiful, filled with songs. Song is the only word I can use. When you enjoy music on this earth, it often fills your heart. You think it's just here on the side, don't you? Well, think again. Oh, I've got music for you.
And when you see me again, the tunes will play, the choirs will sing, and you will burst forth in light singing about the face of God, which you are a part of. You won't be able to help it, you know. You will sing with joy and be filled with joy. The love of God is not filled with rules. That's the message of Kryon. The love of God is filled with unity and compassion. I am Kryon, and I have spoken through my partner for 18 years, and I have never, ever told any human that I am the only source that they should listen to. For there are pieces of God everywhere. There are those who are coming through in human channels, so many places with profound information, male and female. Put the information together, unify the messages, and receive larger messages. Don't put walls around each other saying, don't go see the other one. Listen, if any channeler ever tells you that, walk away. For that is not God speaking. God is you, family, and it's open to everyone, and you need each other in this way. This has always been my message, and it will always be. It would be a good time for a healing, wouldn't it? So who is it that's going to start understanding who they are? What if you would be the one to heal yourself tonight? Is that too grand? Would you allow it? Do you really have to ask God for it? Does it make you feel better to ask Kryon for it? Because I don't have your healing. I have the answer, but I don't have the healing. Understand? Can you go inside and start to see your majesty? It's too hard, Kryon, just too hard. I would rather come to a place and sit there and be healed by a higher power. Well, indeed you would. This is the answer, which humanity does not understand. Healing is part of the system of God that you as humans create. This sacred system is part of you and is ready to give you the healing that you came for. So claim your mastery. Understand that you are a part of this earth and this system. All I can do is invite you to see the light. I cannot personally touch your heart. I cannot make your brain think a way that is different, that you wish it to think. It's a safe place here, you know. Yes, there are angels here, beautiful ones. They don't have skin and wings like you. And they have names that are sung in light. They contain pieces and parts of what you call your lineage. Some of them represent those of you who have loved and lost on this planet. They are here. Do you really doubt that? I invite you to smell them. You know what they are like since you spent years with them. So you know their essence. Let their individual essences waft over you. Listen to the emotion of their hearts with yours. For if it is true what I told you today, then you walk with them every day in an interdimensional space. Do you believe? Let them look at you now and say, well done, my child. We are proud of you. We are. We would not say these things if they were not so. Is it too grand for you? Well, there's more, and it continues tomorrow. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Services. The door opens quickly with my partner, and the reason is that I never leave. He has become so used to the energy of Kryon that I'm always on the other side of the door. Perhaps this is difficult for you to imagine, but it's no different than speaking to your higher self. We have always invited humanity to channel in many ways. You may call it whatever you choose, but when you look at the great art of the planet, can you doubt that it was from God? It was channeled. When you listen to the greatest music on your planet, do you understand that it came flowing through the pipeline? This energy is always available, always part of the system. For you, it has been one full day since I last spoke, since the last communication. But for me, it was just a moment ago. So now we continue the teaching on this second day. In review, what we were speaking of was the system. We told you that it is a confusing place, that interdimensionally you call the other side of the veil. We told you that it isn't a place at all, but rather an interdimensional state of energy, one that you can put yourself into any time you choose. But because of your 3D teachings, you want it to be a place. It's what your reality wants to see. But if you remember the teaching, you will now understand that this interdimensional energy is always around you. And when you put yourself in that space, it often looks chaotic and confusing. When a situation exists, when you're in that state, you cannot make sense of what is going on. Now let me start drawing the logic for you that seems to be missing. In that space that is interdimensional lies all the potentials of you. These are the potentials of what you will do, who you will meet, and what is your purpose in life. The reason these things look confusing because none of them have been manifested yet.
The logic is this. When you go to that place on purpose, when you engage the interdimensional energy, you are then drawing lines of energy that look for and find the potentials you are asking for. And whereas you might think that it does not make sense, there are others who are doing the same thing. And where these lines meet is the synchronicity. I don't expect you to understand this, for it is in interdimensional language. But I say it anyway so that those of you who are in this state of meditative reading will have it shown to you. Yesterday we told you this day would be a practical day where we would get to talk about humans in the system, and so we will. We're going to start by giving you 6 postulates. We hesitate to say rules, so we'll say that they're helping hints. These are hints to help you manifest and work with the system. By manifesting the system, we mean to actually get in touch with it and use it. At no time will we ask you to understand it. You have heard so many times the phrase, God works in mysterious ways. Well, it's not only mysterious to the 3D creature. There is actually great logic and purpose within it. It's not mysterious at all. Some of these postulates may sound familiar, for we have used them before in other lessons. However, this is the first time we have put them together in this form. The first postulate is the most important one. Make no assumptions about anything. This means you have to throw away your 3-dimensional concept of how things work when it comes to you in spirit. When it comes to working the system, make no assumption about anything. This is the hardest thing a human being can do, even in profound meditation. Humans make assumptions. They sit and they open the door and they try to figure out where the voices are coming from. Right away we say again, don't try to understand it. Instead we say, simply use it. When you ask to be shown the path, do not assume you know what it will be. Do not assume you know how it will be shown. Assume nothing and move forward and be surprised. Number 2, see yourself as part of the chaos. You do not stand alone as a 3-dimensional creature that suddenly is placed into this soup of potential. Instead, you are one of the potentials in the soup. So we are asking you to claim that you are part of the system. Sometimes we say, own this, or make it part of you. Some say, well, that sounds pretty easy, I'll do it. Well, it's not easy, for you always see yourself apart from God. You say, I am here, God is there, I'm trying to get to God. We're saying instead that you must see yourself as part of God, and therefore part of the system. Then, number 3, don't be afraid to step into it. You do this in many ways. We have told you for many years that the best thing a human could ever ask is, God, tell me what it is I need to know. This is you stepping into the system. It's an activator of crossing over into the seeming chaos. It's an acknowledgement that you are ready for something you can do even without understanding what it is. So the first 3 postulates are all about you, making no assumptions, owning the system, and stepping into it sound like easy things. But you have to understand that most human beings don't do it this way and have trouble with all of them. Again, the concept of God is that you are apart, separate entities and are not separate from God. There you sit on earth believing the teachings that the energy of spirit is separate and apart from a human. However, if you're going to use the system each day of your life, you must place yourself within it. This doesn't make sense with anything you have been taught, but it must now become your reality. Therefore, self-worth is going to come into play, isn't it? For the human who feels they are worthless will never be able to come to grips with the facts that they are part of God. The next, number 4, is this. Trust and follow your first instinct. This rule is to trust and follow your first intuition. How many times have you had a situation where you said, oh, if I'd only done what I had thought first? This is actually part of the system, and that's the way it occurs to you. It is often the very first instinct you'll have about a situation. Some call it intuition, but it's much more than that. Some of you must learn to do this, for many of you are not used to what the first instinct even feels like. So part of the system is beginning to understand what intuition and instinct looks and feels like. Well, Kryon, how do we do that? How about asking for it? Dear Spirit, let me recognize the signs when I feel them and hear them and realize what they are. The promise is you'll always get them, but how bright they appear in your mind is up to you. There are certain human beings who actually suppress their instincts. They don't like them, and they get in the way of their logic. Many do not think with their hearts at all and only with their brains. but quite often the first instinct is a heart connection process. The next one, number 5, is so misunderstood. Gone are the days when the human being sits and waits for God to do something. The system is all around you. It's ready to facilitate your needs. But if you never open the door, nothing is ever going to happen. Yet humans continue to pray. I want this healing so bad, they say. I want these things so much. I'd like a partner in my life. I'd like to know what I'm supposed to do with my life. So they spend all the time in prayer and meditation every day, asking, never leaving the house, constantly in prayer. That's a great way to meet someone, isn't it? You got to step out and push open the doors. So here's what number 5 is. There must be action on your part. And it comes in many forms and honors whatever your culture supports. But in general, it means leaving the house and going places where you can interact with the potentials of the synchronicity. No matter what you're looking for, it will involve the system of humanity. Therefore, you can't sit in one room alone and expect answers. Well, many say, Dear Spirit, show me what it is I'm supposed to know. Then they sit there and nothing happens, and nothing happens, and nothing happens. So in desperation, they get up and go to the esoteric bookstore. They're walking along in the aisle and a book falls on their head. God just spoke. Then they often say, this is the book I've been looking for. What a revelation to me. Thank you, God. And this is how it works. You've got to get up and go, and when you go, number 6, the big one, expect synchronicity. Synchronicity is defined as energies that align with purpose. These situations look like accidents, but they are not. Listen, this is the key. You have heard that there are no accidents, but there are those outside of your belief system who say, oh, that's crazy, that's not right. Synchronicity looks and appears like coincidence. It often looks like an accident, but it's not. It is you at the right time, at the right place, with the potentials aligned that you asked for. But if you're going to have synchronicity and aligned potentials, you've got to be there to experience them, don't you? So you've got to take some action, whether it's a phone call or it's an electronic communication, whatever it is you work with your body. You've got to put yourself in places where the synchronicity and the system can work. And I say it for those in these rooms and those who are hearing and reading now. There are those of you who still will not do this, for you believe there's some kind of sacredness in staying put and just praying. Instead, try to understand the balance of things. There's a time for asking and a time for receiving. They are done in separate places. If you spend all your time in the asking place, no receiving will occur. Those are postulates. Now I'm going to give you some practical things using these postulates. We're going to discuss some situations and show you how Spirit works. Some of you know these things, but perhaps you've never put them together. The first thing, the most difficult for human beings, is timing. Yesterday we said that your clock is not God's clock. We also told you that it's impossible to apply a 3D time frame to an interdimensional potential. It's frustrating to humanity that God delivers things not when you ask for them, but only when you need them. You see, to us, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever to give you an answer to put in your pocket. Because when you get to a place where you thought you needed it and pull out of your pocket, it's the wrong answer. Instead, it must be the scenario of synchronicity and the energy of the moment. Let me tell you about a specific human being. He thought he was using the system and doing his best. Actually, he didn't really understand how it worked, and he had made some assumptions. This human being had a task at hand. He was a very gentle man, and he worked as a boss at a factory. He was in charge of many workers, and he was a good supervisor, for he loved his employees, knew their families, and respected all of them. He was about to have a challenge, however, since he was going to have to lay off one of the employees. Instructions had come from his supervisor that he had to cut back the workforce by one man. Therefore, one of the men under supervision had to be terminated from his job. Now, here's a common, practical attribute of life. You're walking into a situation and you want to know how to handle it. It's a good request, is it not? It's an honorable request of God. Dear Spirit, I know this man. I love this man. I know his family. Please give me guidance. What am I going to say? How shall I handle this for him? What's the best way? I'm anxious about it. And being a spiritual man, he went on his knees and asked. He made an appointment with the employee, and he knew he had to do his deed within 3 days. But he received no answer at all. He received no intuition, which is what he depended on, and he had no instinct.
Instead, it seemed like God was on vacation, and it wasn't even August. No answer. The second day, he went on his knees again. I know I've been listening, but I'm receiving nothing at all. And I've got to know because I have an appointment tomorrow. Dear Spirit, give me the information so I'll be able to do this in an honorable way. How is the best way to approach this? Nothing. No answer at all. Now, here is where the human being becomes frustrated. Well, I'm stuck. God is not listening. God doesn't care about me. I've got something important coming up, and I've been praying, and there's just no answer at all. That's where some humans give up. But they don't know about the system. If you ever get no answers at all, what do you think is going on? I'll tell you that in the system, the place you call chaos, there are many things happening. There is no 3D answer except one. Be still. Be still, my family, and trust in Spirit. The third day came. The employee came into his office and sat down. Still no answer. Supervisor was sweating. Here it was, within seconds of having to do his deed, and there was no answer, no guidance except to be still. Finally, he looked at the man in the chair. He was smiling, as he always did. The supervisor thought about the man's children, and his heart hurt. The job meant so much to the man, he stalled and offered him some coffee. Then they sat down, and the supervisor gathered his thought. But before he could speak, the employee spoke first. I'm so glad you called me into the office. I don't know how to tell you this, but I have found a better job. I'm so sorry. I know we're friends and you count on me, but I'm going to have to leave the factory. It will make a big difference to my family. The supervisor smiled, and then he knew. The answer was not in how he was supposed to prepare this man. It was how to prepare himself. That's how it works. That's called synchronicity. Yet you cannot begin to understand what appears to be chaos or chance. There'd be a temptation for that human being to say, well, what a coincidence, not giving any credit to God or himself, but the reality is that it was in the system all along. Make no assumptions about timing. We've told you this from the beginning. When human beings ask for something, they feel they've purchased a ticket on a train. Then they tap their toe, expecting the train to come with God in it. Doesn't work that way. It's not a ticket at all. It's a request for synchronicity without an assumption of timing. We could say the same thing about the delivery of answers. That is the other thing that human beings do. They ask for something and then they expect a complete answer. That's what you get in 3D, isn't it? When you go to the store and purchase an automobile, you get the whole thing, don't you? Isn't that what you would expect? You'd probably object if they only gave you the tires today and the vehicle tomorrow. But that's the way synchronicity works, piecemeal. What we are saying is that many times the answer comes in pieces, and you're required to connect them together for the whole thing. Don't make any assumptions of how the answer is going to get to you, or that it's going to be complete or incomplete, or even where it's going to come from. Kryon, what is my path? What am I supposed to be doing? I want to know my purpose in life. We hear this so often. Oh, dear human beings, the very question is so 3D of you. You've made up your mind that you have one path. How singular. Is that all you do? One thing. You are supposed to come into the planet and do one thing. You're spending your life asking Spirit, what is the one thing I'm supposed to do? I'm really looking for it. I don't know what it is yet. It's like you're going to find some prize on the road that has your name on it. Then you would work it for the rest of your life. Oh, dear human being, you have no idea of who you are. Your potentials are so complex. We have said this before to you, but you now need to hear it in the context of this teaching. The sacred path that you have in your DNA is for today. And the irony is that you may very well be on it. You may be doing it, participating in it, while at the same time you make assumptions of what is supposed to be. So you're sitting on the floor crying out to God, what is my path? The system needs anchors of light. Where do you live? Where do you work? Is it difficult there? Maybe that's your path, to be in a difficult place holding the light. Much light should be in the area where it's tough, to create sacredness where there is darkness, to hold joy and to be the only person in the area to do it, because that's what you're good at. And all the while you say, I am doing nothing for anyone. I've got to know my path. Got to know my path. Yet the human is frustrated. Never understanding the path is what they're already doing so well, and tomorrow it may change. Every day of your life you hold a place for the light of God to come in and shine. It's often in the places where there is no one else but you who holds the light. Did you ever think of that? There are as many paths as there are days in the year, and that is synchronicity. So what is your passion? If you follow it, that's where your path will lead. Your path is changeable and not one thing, yet many times humans make up their minds they will be one thing. I'm going to be a healer, they say, and they think that's what God wants. They've got it all figured out. They've made an assumption, however, a singular one, like they've had some kind of meeting with God and God agrees. Unknown to them, they did this agreement all by themselves. God wasn't even there. And then when they hit obstacles, they say, how can this be? I'm supposed to be a healer. They made the assumption that what they see is, therefore, their path. There's no synchronicity in that. They're not part of the system, you see. They're not following the system. Instead, they're plowing a trough of their own vision in 3 dimensions. Sometimes this is difficult to explain to 3D creatures who work every day in that reality, to feel the difference between what they have visualized for yourself and what the system has for you. So the next question would be, what is the voice of God? Dear Spirit, I've been waiting for answers. I need specifics. Then the humans will think they're going to hear something in their brains. Perhaps somehow it will be written on the wall. I will tell you again, the reason we tell you to follow your first instinct is that the vehicle for communication is intuition. This intuition is a product of synchronicity. It is very real way of God, the system, communicating with humanity. Humans don't like it because it appears as though they thought of it, so it isn't from God. After all, they've waited for an answer from God, not themselves. Some of you get a thought in your brain and say, well, I just thought that myself. It can't be God. Well, that's exactly who it is. But that's you using the synchronicity because you gave intention to step into it. Don't you deserve to receive these messages in that way? Aren't you sacred? Intuition is the way. That's how it works. But again, the assumption is that God is big and that you are small. Therefore, what you think personally is not what God is telling you you think. Get used to intuition being the answer. When my partner began this process of channeling, even though he had opened the door for Kryon, even though he received messages, he didn't believe it. Even with validation from those who knew the truth, in his intellectual mind he said, I'm making it up. This is because when you channel, it feels like it involves the human brain. Well, it does. It has to. It involves all your DNA, your emotional state, and your intellect, all connected to Source. He finally let go and realized the channel was also using his own sacredness. That's when it got clear. Trust your intuition, for those are the words of God. Some have even said it is messages from what many have called the Holy Spirit. This is another way of saying the higher self. Many belief systems have different names for the same energy, but it's always about how you receive the messages. You see, you're part of the system. There have also been many questions about business. I told you this message would be practical, so I'll give you 2 examples. Here's advice for those who are trying to co-create jobs so you can help develop the abundance needed within a society to be able to live. First, dear one, God is not in the dark. God knows the society that you live in. Spirit understands that you need abundance in order to stay in the place you are, to purchase the food, for the transportation or more. God is not against money. As soon as you understand that, you'll be far more peaceful. In fact, it is up to you to manifest, through synchronicity, the abundance you need to live. In other words, money is part of the system. It is as divine as any other part of your path when you treat it spiritually. Did anyone ever tell you that Spirit wanted you to suffer a little? Perhaps you're supposed to walk to work with no vehicle. Maybe you shouldn't eat. Perhaps you shouldn't stay out in the cold for a while because you can't find a home. What kind of light worker is that? When others look at you, do they say, I'd like to be just like him, destitute, unhappy, hungry, and cold? That doesn't make any sense, does it? No, it's just the opposite. Spirit wants you in abundance, and abundance is defined as sustenance for each day at a time, in joy. How can you hold the light if you are in a survival mode? What is your source of abundance? Do you worry about it, or do you consider part of the system? Do you give it to Spirit, or do you sequester it because you don't think God understands money? Blessed is the human being who integrates everything in their society and themselves and understands what it is divine. For these are the Lightworkers who are healthy, balanced, and mobile. They are the ones who make a difference on the planet. That's business. Money is only a challenging energy when it is hoarded or the source of worry or not within your control. That's when it becomes a god unto itself and takes on the challenging energy assigned to it. The invitation is to see it as simply another thing in your toolbox, like love and compassion and joy. Fear of not having it will create its absence. Another part of the system has to do with partnering with someone in an endeavor. You'd better use the system that I've given you, which is synchronicity and potential. The advice is to find somebody who spiritually loves you. This partnership will last as long as you choose, and there will never be betrayal. Surround yourself with those who love your heart, and the partnership will endure. And in speaking of financial things in business, I'm speaking of whatever you do in your society that is commercial. Oh, that's odd. Kryon is talking about commercial things. Yes, I am. If you live in the society, it's part of you. If you live in the culture, it's part of you. So why not use the divine tools you have made to work as part of you? There is no separation of commercial things and spiritual things to God. They are all part of your walk from day to day and are seen as part of the energy of your time on earth. Those who wish to separate them and call them sacred and some less sacred are not considering the wholeness of your task on the planet. For again I say that in order to hold the energy of light on this planet, you must see everything you do as sacred, and everywhere you walk is part of the system of God. Relationships are difficult, and again, there is an assumption of the one for you. But it may not be that way. It may be many relationships over a period of time that synchronistically put themselves together with you for a purpose that only becomes obvious later. Let me reveal some things about relationship, a revelation about romance. Many of you have your partners existing in your lives. Others do not. So this is for those who do not, and also for the wisdom of those who do, so they can teach their children about the system. Have you ever wondered why it is that you are so individually different about those who you choose? For those looking for a partner, you have an idea of what is acceptable, what is not. Where do those attributes come from? For each of you are so different from each other. Now I'm going to reveal something. In this system, there are synchronicities and potentials of the partner who might be out there. So within your own consciousness, you are given the desires that are meant to match the synchronicities of those who are out there, and therefore the setup is complete. That's who you're looking for, and that's why. And all of you are so different, but that's where the desire for special attributes come from. It's not just a personal choice, it's instinct. That is a potential out there that looks just like the ones you are imagining, and I mean in all ways. What their heart looks like, what their conscience looks like, all things. How it makes you feel. It's not just how you feel about what you want. Your personal choices have been placed there because you asked for this. Let me tell you about Mary. Mary makes assumptions, just like everyone else. She's a light worker, and she's single, and she's looking for a partner. So Mary prayed to God. I want a partner. I can just visualize him. He's got these big brown eyes, his eyebrows are a little bushy, and he's got a beard. I like men with hair. Pretty specific, wasn't it? Mary knew, however, that she was watching for a man who looked like this. God, bring me this man. I'll be patient. I'll wait. Bring in a man like this. Indeed, a man showed up in her life, and he said, I've been watching you. We're having a family dance, a get-together. It's a festival for our family, and we do it once a year. I don't know how to ask you this, but would you come to the dance with me? Well, this man didn't have bushy eyebrows, no big brown eyes. He wasn't her type at all. He didn't have a beard either. Normally, Mary would just say no. After all, she knew who she was looking for. She'd say no because that wasn't what she felt God would bring her. But somewhere Mary had heard the information. Make no assumptions about anything. She thought very hard about this, but she did not want to lead this man on. She did not want to give him hope that she would be his partner. She did not want to say yes because of this, but then she didn't want to hurt his feelings. So Mary made a decision to go. All right, can't hurt. I'll go to the dance, she said. Yes, I'll go. They arrived at the family gathering, and the man who asked her was suddenly very shy. Mary, I have not been honest with you, he said. Please forgive me. But I have an extremely shy brother who really wanted you here so he could meet you. Mary looked around, and there was this man with dark blue eyes, bushy eyebrows, and a beard. Mary smiled and thought to herself, I got everything right but the eyes. I'll take him. And indeed it was him. Do you get the point? You can't make the normal, singular assumptions you're prone to make. Also, you're not always 100% correct in what you see either, but you're close enough to know when it's right. In a 3D decision, Mary could have said no to the man. She could have thought to herself, I'm waiting for the right guy.
but she honored synchronicity. Those who try to figure it all out in 3D don't know about the system, you see. They really don't understand the synchronicity, dear ones. Don't try to understand it, just use it. Watch for the invitations and take them, knowing that there is not some simple singular path that is going to be given. Many humans are needed to lead you to the potential of the final goal, but not unless you allow yourself the flexibility to go when you should go. Let your intuition serve you in these things. We're almost finished. Co-creation is one of the hardest things to explain. We can give you many stories, but the rules are the same, and the first one is to make no assumptions. There is a man who is trying to co-create a car for himself. He could not go to the car store, for he could not afford a new one. He couldn't even afford a used one at the place where they sell those. He needed a miracle. God, give me a car. I need it to go to work. I need to manifest a vehicle. Listen to this. For many of you have been exactly in this situation before. Practical information. Here's how the system worked. He had a friend who said, I don't know about a car, but I've got a guy who can give you a ride to work. And that's where most human beings would say, well, no, I don't need a ride. I need a car. I'll be wasting time if I just get a ride. I need to find a car. But this human being knew about the system and about synchronicity. So he took the opportunity and he took the ride to work. When he struck up a conversation with the man who was giving the ride, the man said, did you know this car is for sale? You know the rest of the story. Of course, he bought the driver's car. That is how spirit works. Outside the box of logic, within something that looks like chaos, is a beautiful answer. This is the way the strands of the lattice connect the potential of energy. And for a human being to use it, all they have to do is understand they are part of it and begin to manifest it. But for most human beings, it looks illogical and even foolish. It doesn't seem right that they could be accidental answers that you can plan on. You see, there's a system, and it's ready to manifest for you. Oh, there'll be challenges, and there'll be learning. Isn't that the way everything is? But the answer to so many of your co-creative efforts are already floating there in the system, if you allow it to work for you. We're about to close and leave this place. It's no accident that we sit in Spain, for the synchronicity is clear. Those of you who met this weekend are part of what my partner calls the team of Kryon, and they are here through synchronicity. It's not coincidence. It's also not an accident that you're in the chair listening to this. So how about that healing? Are we ready yet? Are you starting to understand yet? Perhaps you didn't just come to get a healing from Kryon. Perhaps there's something here you're supposed to meet who has an answer. You came for one reason, but you leave realizing another. Did you go out of your way to meet someone you didn't know today? It's not too late. But you have the concept now that perhaps in this group many have come synchronistically to meet each other. Perhaps they have the answer to help you on your current path. Did you take advantage of it or not? This is human free choice. But I'll tell you, the system is grand, and it's working right here. Blessed is the one who has come, for the healing for it is given. And you will know it, dear one, for it is awakening into your old soul, a realization that says, indeed, I am divine. And you've realized it's surrounded by family who love you, and that's the message of Kryon. Leave this place changed, differently than you came in. Understand that this place is not where Kryon is. It's not where spirit is. It's not where your lineage is. Your spiritual lineage is where you are on the planet, available at any time, anywhere. Kryon is like that, and spirit is like that. It's the family who you have called on today. That is why it works, dear human beings. And so it is that the team leaves this place. Did you feel the love of one human for another? Did you feel it cutting through cultural understanding and language? Because that is the purpose of the meeting, to bring you to a place where you realize that what you all have in common is that you are all part of the family of God, and it's hard to leave. These are times when you allow Kryon into your 3D reality for just a moment, and it's beautiful for us. And so it is. And so ends the Lightworker Handbook.